So I'm here with my sick-ass clique, and we're going to go all out with Chris Barrett, talking about the M82, the M107, the Gulf War, the Mark 22, which maybe some of you don't know about, but it's, you know, the new sickness and long-range precision terrorist killing badass shit. Life, bourbon, cars, horses, hoes, strip clubs, stuff he likes. I don't know. So, all right. Chris Barrett, welcome, my buddy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
How you doing?
I'm so great.
You are. It's so weird, like, as our careers, you know, like parallel, and we do less shows and we see each other less and we got to make the effort. But this is the time that I like, you know, picking you up yesterday. We just get to hang out and bullshit.
We had too much to say, though, on day one. Since we hadn't been around each other in a few months.
I know.
You know, I've got a year's worth of things to tell you about.
Yeah. So, I don't know when I met Chris, actually, but it's been a long time because, okay, so for everyone listening or watching, so Chris Barrett, it's no coincidence, it's Barrett Firearms. So your father, Ronnie James D.O. Barrett, started awesome. Barrett Firearms in, well, it's the M82, so I assume it was 1982.
It was 1982, yeah.
What year were you born?
1978.
So you probably started working there. I mean, you probably waited. You're probably 6.
You know, I was doing little odd jobs, probably that early.
Yeah. Have you ever had a job other than Barrett Firearms?
No.
That's so fucking cool, man. Well, I've also, you know, I don't know your dad very well, but I've known him for, God, I don't know, probably 25 years. I met him, but dude, I want to know the history. Like, I did research, and I've got a bunch of questions here. I'm going to turn this over so you can't see it and spoil anything. But it's interesting, me being in the industry also for 30 years. I learned so much doing research, just wanting to be prepared for you coming. But I want to hear the story, because to me, it's like a great American story, like your dad, his background, and what led him to the 82. Like, I want to start from, you know, for the M82, I want to.
Yeah.
Before that, what's your dad's background? How'd he get there?
I agree. I think it is a great American story that it kind of it transcends just being interesting to gun people. Also, you know, kind of. If you're an American and, you know, like, just kind of love the freedom we have and the ability to do anything here, you know, you're going to get into this story, and I think that's why a lot of people gravitate to it, because he's one of those guys that did it.
It's the American dream, as far as I'm concerned. Some of the videos I watched yesterday, I mean, I've appreciated what your family's done for a long time, you know, and not too different from the Knight family or other families in our industry. But yeah, your dad's story is the fucking American dream. Yeah,
and we have this opportunity here that you just don't get many other places in the world. So it's that's why people love it. So, you know, Dad was a photographer. Yeah. And what that means is he was a photographer when you had to be very creative to do that job. You know, we didn't have all the post edit. We couldn't make like a masterpiece on our iPhone, you know, and edit it in the iPhone and make it. It had to be right. It was on 35 millimeter.
Knowing your dad, it's not surprising. Yeah. That his attention to detail. I mean, when you see him today, I mean, he looks like Chuck Woolery. I mean, his hair is perfect. Yeah. He's always dressed like he's the president. His attention to detail. So it's no surprise to me, knowing that he was a photographer at a time where you had to get it right the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really had to know your craft, because not only do you have to get it right, but you don't know if you got it right until you develop it.
That's right.
So,
yeah, we had a dark room when I was a kid. I mean, God, we don't know what a dark room is anymore.
I was going to say, half the people watching or listening won't even know what that is.
A dark room
is a
room devoid of light where you develop photography. You know, so you would take the film and turn it into a photograph. And yeah, you're right. You wouldn't know what you got until then. Like, now we can, you know, take a burst of 20 shots, you know, keep the 3 we want and roll and make those awesome later. But no, Dad had an eye for that, and he has the creative eye, you know, and he sees the beauty in those things, and he knew how to turn that into great photography. And so was already a successful photographer in our town. Everybody in our town, like all growing up, knew Ronnie Barrett for that, because he was the photo guy. I mean, he did all this stuff from weddings to to any events, and then dabbled in a little bit of product photography for companies as well. So he really was great at that, but it was always a gun guy and not a hunter. We weren't raised as like hunter outdoor.
Oh, really?
No,
I wouldn't assume it, because you think you guys are in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, right outside of Nashville, and with your accent in mind, like people would naturally think we're rednecks growing up hunting.
Oh yeah, people assume that about us as well, but it's just Dad was a student of military firearms and history. Well, a lot like you are, and like I've come to love as well. That's kind of how I grew up.
Yeah,
we did not. They did a little hunting when he was a kid.
Yeah, so his father was into firearms as well.
Not really.
Really?
No.
Oh, cool.
My
So like
grandfather
me, found it on his own.
My grandfather was a carpenter.
Yeah.
And so Dad got a lot of that. And that kind of influenced the way the first rifles were designed. If you were into carpentry. And Dad tells on himself, like some of the first drawings he had that were done with a pencil are like 25 7/8 of an inch. This is how the things were dimensioned, because if you were building a cabinet, that's how we do it. And like we didn't use the decimal system, so some of the very first prototype rifles were made with they were fractional.
That's awesome.
Like so old school, it was fractional.
We don't really use those tolerances these days.
No. So it's, but he didn't know that, and sometimes things are possible when you don't know that it's not. So,
yeah, I mean, your dad, in my opinion, created something that he should not have been able to do, and had he had formal training,
you wouldn't have done it.
He wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, because the world would have convinced you that you were an idiot.
Yeah, some professor would have told him it was stupid or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So it's I think he really changed our world a lot in that way, and so some of the early drawings he took in, though, were in fractional dimensions to a machine shop and say, hey, can you make this part for me? But he was skilled at working with wood. From my grandfather, they built all the cabinets in our town, and that was kind of the early childhood for him. And
well, he was into military history, and I've seen pictures and videos of your father like shooting guns prior to Barrett, and pictures of him shooting old AR-15s or M16s and stuff like that. How in the hell is the first thing you do a semi-automatic 50 cal? So what was in his head?
Well, you know how it goes with your collection. We could probably all remember where our first shot, like what we shot first, or what our first piece in our collection was, and things just evolve. They get out of hand. Until you have 500 skateboards, right?
Whoa. We're talking about your family.
Let's not get into your closet. So, he just kind of progressed through those things. You're right. I've got awesome 80s photos on my phone of Dad.
Yeah.
Like with all his brothers, like really short shorts, like all their guns laid out. This is before the internet where you could show off your guns. Like you had to actually take a photo of it, and then you could carry the picture around. So, he was just always into that. And we went to, the Soldier of Fortune shows when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, in Vegas they had them.
Well, but even before that, I guess we were going to Knob Creek machine gun shoot.
Yeah, that's part of what I want you and I to get into at some point. I have some questions about Knob Creek that people won't really understand. But yeah, Soldier of Fortune events was a gathering of companies and individuals. And
is it the same as the magazine?
Put on by Bob Brown.
Yeah, and they had stuff. What was the hotel? It was at Vegas, and they would have a like this plank or whatever across a pool,
like American Gladiators.
Yeah, and you got on there, like they'd have like whoever could do it. It'd be like SF guys and stuff too, and you fight and fuck each other up, and whoever knocks each other in the water, and somebody in the end wins and wins a prize. Yeah,
just imagine that in 2021, like.
Oh, can never.
It's probably illegal for us to talk about it right now.
But it was pretty cool. And then you go out in the desert and have a shoot and blow shit up. Like it was. But you know what was so cool? I touched on it in our last podcast. It was so pure because there was no social media flexing. Yeah. You did it because you loved it. Mm-hmm. There was no other reason to do it, because you weren't going to get famous. You weren't going to get followers. You had to spend money to get out there. There's no video, and you just shot with your buddies and blew stuff up, and then you drink beers and fight on this plank in the pool. It was a good time.
We should bring it back.
So early, we should bring it back. But again, like I said, I don't know if we could. I mean, it would be.
Don't ask General Counsel.
It would probably be considered a terrorist organization.
Christine, shut this off right now.
Right. Yeah. So, Dad was just into guns, right? Since a young age, and started his collection. And then in the 80s, when you could manufacture a machine gun.
Oh, that's right. But until May of '86, you could manufacture. So for people who are unaware, you could, if you had an AR-15, you could convert it to full auto and just register it and pay your $200 tax like you register an SBR now, and you could convert all your guns into machine guns.
This is like pre-Miami Vice, okay? And there's a significant inflection point to Miami Vice, and it was, you could get these guns. Like Dad had an M60 when I was very little. He had a gun room at our house, a house that we eventually moved into later that had all these guns in it, and he had an M60 that he helped some other guys get the parts and get assembled, and he just got one for free. A transferable M60.
Yeah, because back then it was just a matter of gathering the parts, which were current surplus parts. So it wasn't there wasn't intrinsic value to it. I mean, I think my first M60, which I probably bought in 1994, and I bet it wasn't $3,000.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just crazy to think of that now. That gun is probably worth what, 50 or 60.
Yeah.
And so Dad had one of those. It was just a freebie, and he had Uzis, and he started kind of with like pistols. Like he had Colt Python.
And his Python probably then cost as much as the full auto transferable Uzi costs.
True. Yeah, that's right. And so he shot competitively at like Bullseye and other whatever it might have been pistol competitions. And
it's the same thing. Reed Knight was doing pistol competition. Yeah.
And then he got into there was submachine gun shoots at Knob Creek.
Oh yeah, Knob Creek.
Like machine gun walk. You pop all these balloons.
Yeah. Well, last time I went to Knob Creek, they still did it. So for people listening or watching, so Knob Creek, it's in is it West Point, Kentucky?
Yeah,
so it's next to Fort Knox. So it's a great trip because they have what museum is that they have there next to Fort Knox?
Is it an armament museum of some type?
No. Is it Eisenhower? No. Is it Eisenhower? No. Okay, I'll look it up and we'll put it up here. But they've got a great museum of like some general where they've got a lot of guns and stuff in it. And then there's Fort Knox, and then in this few miles past that, hillbilly in the mountains, the Knob Creek machine gun shoot. So it's in Bullock County, Kentucky, which is cool. So if you go to the Chamber of Commerce and you get the little "what things to do here" flyer, it always had the machine gun shoot as number one. So God bless that town and that county. That's great. And it's why I drink Knob Creek whiskey today is my primary one, is because of the machine gun shoot. So twice a year, April and October, was it the second weekend of each? They have it, and it is just balls out, machine guns, mini guns, blowing cars up. It's in like the mountains.
It's up in a holler,
Up in a holler, yeah.
And you can camp there. You can bring your RV if you really, if you're really bold.
Yeah, and so there's a jungle. So they have shooting competitions too, which is what you're talking about. Submachine gun competitions. They had like a jungle walk where you go through with your Uzi or your Beretta PM12 or your MP5 in later years, and it's a competition. It was highly contested a lot. I mean, there were people who were serious about it. It's the first place. I took my dad and my brother and Max Atchison on a Huey ride. Remember, you used to pay $100 to go on a Huey ride? So fun. But that was a cool thing because you could go and experience, and I think they still have it. I haven't been in probably
I can't imagine
20
what
years.
It's like now, though. It's so the other big portion of it is a swap meet, right?
Yeah.
And you would so this is a huge tent or outside pavilion, and you're walking through these tables and you're digging through bins of Cosmoline covered bits of receivers that somebody knows. Oh, this is Bulgarian or whatever. All this weird stuff. I don't know how much of that is there. I haven't been in a few years.
I haven't been either. What's the best thing you ever found? The treasure you found there?
Well, I mean, I've picked up all kinds of obscure AK novelties. Just lots of AK stuff. But I think the stuff that's probably the most useful was, going like in my 20s and 30s and stuff. We would go buy like the battle-packed metal cans of like Denel South African 308 ammo, and you open that up, and there's like 800-round sealed battle packs.
Plastic things. Yeah.
Like just getting that ammo and being able to stockpile surplus ammo that's actually quality. Like if you've got an FAL or something, we used to just shoot a lot.
That thing people don't realize. I used to buy that South African, the Denel ammo, in 5.56 and 7.62, and if I bought a pallet of it, so in my house 20 years ago, 3-car garage, and one stall was just ammo. And I would always have a pallet of 308 and 5.56. And for a few years, it was the Denal stuff because it was new production. It was 11 cents a round for 5.56 and 13 cents a round, maybe 12 and a half for 308. Because I shot, people don't realize it now, but I have machine guns. And the ammo wasn't that expensive, so I might spend $500 on a weekend, but I would go to my farm and I would shoot belt-fed machine guns all day. And you wouldn't spend that much money.
Yeah.
The coolest stuff, I can think of two things I got that were super cool at Knob Creek. A KGB Krinkov case for $100. So like a real one, it looks like a Russian Samsonite, and you press a button and the case clamshells opens and falls to the ground, and you're holding the handle, which is cradling a Krinkov, and you throw that down and shoot someone. And then the other one, I was looking in a Thompson magazine bin that someone had, and you know the Ingram Model 6?
Yeah.
Great gun, underrated. The magazines are so expensive. Even then, 25 years ago, $100 a piece. And these were Thompson mags for $8 a piece. And the guy had like 6 or 8 of them in there. And I picked it up and tried to tell him, because you know some of those old school guys, like old school gun stores, you go in, the guys are assholes. And I tried to tell him that it wasn't a Thompson mag, and he just basically told me, shut the fuck up, you want to buy them or not?
Yes.
And I, you know, like I was trying to help the guy out. So I said, okay, you know, here's my $100 for like these 6 or 8 mags, you know, and got my change, and I went home. And so now my Ingram Model 6, which everybody has one magazine, I've got like 7 or 8 mags for it.
Yeah.
Those are some of my treasures.
Like, I wonder if we're losing listeners on this right now, but like you just can't imagine how cool it was. Like it's not like, you know, scouring through this stuff to like, and then piecing a gun together.
It's like the first time you saw boobs or something like,
Yeah.
what the heck? I mean, it was so exciting. And to me, like watching miniguns fire that weren't on an aircraft where people are just behind them, like, you know, with tracers and blowing cars up. And
oh yeah,
that's the first time I ever saw Tannerite. Well, they would do like actual explosives at Knob Creek too. But
yeah. So where the campground is, I remember the first time my buddy we got his dad's RV and we took it. You know, we were probably 20s. And speaking of Tannerite or the other stuff that got set off out there, we're at the campground. You know, and it's a ways away from
probably
where the actual
quarter mile or half mile.
Right. I remember one afternoon we were sitting there like we're exhausted. You know, you've been up all night around a campfire with all kinds of characters, and
oh yeah.
I mean, you're really in the grid. If you have spent the night at Knob Creek, you're in it. And so we were sitting there, and somebody lit something off, and I remember I was sitting there, and we had a fold out, you know, table with some sandwiches and stuff, and there was a loaf of bread there with a plastic bag on it. And the plastic was kind of laid over on top of the bag, and something just went, and I looked at that bag and went, and it blew. Like we're at the campground,
yeah.
Like it just moved that plastic. Like what, you know, is somebody dead over there? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I remember walking into Knob Creek every year because you know you'd have to walk like a mile to park to
and
get
sometimes
in there.
in mud.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, when it rained, it was
like
nasty.
music festival.
Those redneck
guns.
kids would drive from like, you know, neighboring farms with their tractors to pull everybody out of the mud.
Yeah, that's right.
But I remember walking down, like you would think if the miniguns were shooting, and for those who have never heard a minigun up close, but this is still like a mile away. And when they're shooting, it might be 6 guys shooting miniguns. They're trying to blow something up, and it sounds like a freight train. It doesn't sound like a gun. It's like, that was cool. And then the explosions. I mean, you're a mile away and putting ear protection on. Like, it is so out of hand. They'd have a night shoot, and it's all tracers. And, I mean, and people have been killed there, unfortunately. But it's like a great time. I mean, it's almost like if... I don't know how to describe it.
He just glossed over that. You know, people have been killed there, so it was so awesome. I mean,
people get killed at the rodeo, race cars.
Yeah, all the things that are exciting. Yeah. So why should guns be any different? But anyway,
the vehicles were cool too. I remember there used to be Penzgauers. Like there was Steyr.
I bought a Penzgauer.
I had a Penzgauer.
Yeah.
I had a nice one, and those little mule, or what were they called? The
mule. Those are dangerous as shit.
Yes.
Oh my god. Yeah,
yeah. Like a motor with a platform.
Yeah, you're sitting on like the front corner driving them. So Thomas, we can post a lot of this stuff. These are good photos.
It is. It's gold.
Yeah, because they would have also is like a military vehicle like show competition where something was given away. I think is why they had so many vehicles there.
Some were for sale.
Yeah.
So, you know, all that to say, like, we're kind of setting the stage for, you know, in the Ronnie Barrett story, that was kind of our culture. You know, that's what we were growing up in. It wasn't hunting in the woods or, like, a deer rifle. It was that, like, just being steeped in that. And, like, it was so fun. You know the world. I mean, it's like, you can't. I don't even know if we can get that feeling back now, but it was awesome.
Well, it's so interesting because when you see stuff on social media now, you can slide into the DMs and shit and ask people things. But then, like you and I growing up in this industry, Knob Creek wasn't the only event. It was just kind of like a pinnacle, balls out, Mad Max, like just adrenaline-filled, exciting event. Because the range with all these miniguns is right next to the tent where you're trying to buy stuff. But if...
you could get information. You could go ask Old Western Scrounger, or Kent Lamont,
Bob Landis. All these people were just there and answer your question. Or people with the vehicles. Like I got interested in the Pinzgauer because of being there. I actually got interested in a mule, and I started talking to a guy who built him. And my dad wanted one. I was going to surprise him, and he started telling me how dangerous it was. I'm like, don't get it. And I've got an idiot brother, so I didn't get that. But I got interested in a Pinzgauer there, and I was able to get information from a guy who had Pinzgauers, imported them, and restored them. Mm-hmm. And that's how I made the decision to get it instead of a Unimog and all this. Like you could talk to people that had them and get information. You know, it's weird. I mean, you had to do a face-to-face thing, but you had access to people a couple of times a year who you could ask these questions.
I met John Ross there.
Oh,
who wrote Unintended Consequences.
Badass motherfucker.
He had a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum in his belt line, like Mexican style, like, you know.
For people who I mean, we can look him up too, but he was a large man.
Yeah.
Like physically looked like a grizzly bear. And to put it in perspective, were you there the year he shot, when his book came out, he did a little demo and he shot clay pigeons with a single shot 50 cal bolt gun and then a Suomi 9mm submachine gun. And so did it for like 10 minutes, never missed one with both guns. So single shot 50 cal, pull, boom, break a clay with a 50 cal single. I mean, he's a man.
Yeah. And like Unintended Consequences, can you even get that book?
I don't know.
I think the FBI had like a lot of them pulled.
Oh, they did?
I mean, it was naughty. You know, it was...
He was connecting some dots.
And I think I've read things in that book I think made it into movies later, you know, that just along the way, it was wild and, you know, not a literary masterpiece, but man.
He's a cool guy. A lot of good information. You know, I met
he alive?
Randy. I don't know. I haven't seen him in 20 years. But I met Randy Weaver there too.
I met Randy Weaver in Vegas.
You did?
He was signing his book like after.
He was signing his book at Knob Creek when I met him.
Gosh.
Yeah, with his daughter, like the one that survived.
I'm afraid nobody knows what we're talking about now.
So Ruby Ridge, Randy Weaver. So he was his family was.
Yeah, we talked about him a little bit.
Suspect and victimized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, all of this we're talking about that culture. You know, you said, well, like, why did he do this? Like, and everybody asked that, and it's probably one of the largest misconceptions about the company and our product that we've had to actually.
Well, let's clear it right. Let's clear the fucking air right now. All right, you have a huge audience of dozens of people.
I know, man. You three guys, I hope y'all are loving this. Like, lap it up. So it was, you know, a lot of people, and we've been accused by, you know, gun grabbing politicians that this is a military weapon that's been put into the hands of civilians. It just wasn't that way. You know, there was no military requirement in 1982 for anything like this. People thought it was laughable. There just wasn't.
I think 1982, I think the M107 or whatever, it wasn't adopted until at least 20 years later.
Oh, yeah.
Officially.
There were some early militaries that looked at it, and we can talk about that some, but they I think the big point is, like, why did Ronnie Barrett do this thing? It was not because there was a military requirement or this thing had a specific place.
It's what I would have thought.
He wanted this. So he had you know, we said he had Uzis and he had M60s, and then, you know, the Ramo company was in Nashville. Ramo.
Oh, that's right. They
had the elephant.
Yeah, they made.
Awesome logo.
I have one of their M250 cals.
So Dad knew ER Maples, Pony Maples,
which
went on to become MSG, Military Systems Group. Mount. They make all these amazing mounts. Pony died a couple of years ago. Has an awesome collection of stuff too. But you know, so Dad was around these 50 cals and did some photography for them.
Oh, see, I've never even heard this story.
He was doing product photography. So you actually you forgot about it. When last time you came to Barrett, I don't think I could have possibly taken you around the building and not showed you the kind of Genesis photograph. There's a photo of a boat, like a riverine patrol craft, on a sunsetting lake with an M2 on the front with dudes wearing like motorcycle helmets, driving this thing backlit by the sun. Dad took that photo for the Ramo company. They were making the mount.
No shit.
And the guns. And so they went to Percy Priest Lake, which is our lake right around Nashville, early in the morning, sun's coming up, and we got this boat running around with 50s with dudes looking like, Star Wars troopers with helmets on. And Dad took this amazing photograph. It won awards. The portrait is on the wall. And that's where Dad made friends with Pony and said, hey man, I've got this idea, I'm going to make a 50 caliber that you can shoot from your shoulder. And the way Dad tells it, the guy was like, okay. Right.
Well, I'm sure. Your only frame of reference is the M2 at that point.
Correct.
A big, huge belt fed, takes 2 people to set up and move.
To say, and listeners, if you've never been around a minigun, you don't know what that experience is like. If you've never been around an M2 firing, you don't know what that's like. This thing, the earth is shaking.
Yeah.
Bo, 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 like grass is hopping up off the ground. The concussion is, and for someone if you stood there for like a 20-round burst of that, and then somebody said, now I want you to shoot this rifle with that cartridge in it, you would be like, no.
I would equate this to when I listen to Joe Rogan, and he's like a car nut, you and I like cars, but he likes American muscle cars. But, part of him is like, like the V8 muscle cars and the sound and the blah, 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 blah. The whole thing. Either same thing with like a V-twin or whatever in a motorcycle. The M2, it has that characteristic.
The thump.
Yeah, the thump.
It's
the cyclic rate, and oh my God, a 50 uncorking from the barrel every time. Like that's a big explosion.
Yeah. So to be around that, again, it's hard to explain like this until you've done it. But to be around that, and for someone to say, now shoot that from your shoulder, and this rifle you can pick up. You're not going to walk. You're going to run away. No.
I would definitely think that. Yeah.
So, and that's what he said. So, he's there with Pony, and he says, yeah, I'm going to design one of these, and I think Dad was like 26 or 27 or 28 at the time. The guy's like, right, and the company, the Ramo company, was bidding at that time on what's the grenade launcher with the hot 40 millimeter high pressure grenade launcher.
The Mark,
the
Mark
Madus?
18?
The Madus M2?
Mark 18's
no, he's talking about the 40 millimeter belt fed grenade launcher.
19.
Mark
19, yep.
They were
that's
bidding
right.
on the Mark 19 contract.
Thank you, Jay. Glad you made it.
What is the M2?
The
M2 is a 50 cal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's talking about the 40 millimeter
Got it.
belt fed.
Yeah, so they were bidding to try to win that contract for that at the time, and this, Dad was like, well, hey, if I design this 50 cal rifle, can you guys build this? And Dad feels that Pony kind of appeased him by saying, yeah, we're going to win this contract, and then you bring this, that, and we'll do that, sure, whatever. Like you would tell somebody, would you please go away? Like, you're crazy. So Dad says, 6 months later, he shows up. He said, well, I got this thing. I got this rifle, and they're like, what?
Man, this is why I give young people always the benefit of the doubt. I mean, think about my company now. I'm the second oldest person, and probably soon will be the oldest person. I think the oldest person's probably retiring within the next year. And young people, I love it. Think you can conquer the world, because if you think it, you can. Like your dad now in his 60s would probably not believe he could do that.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't be as enthusiastic. He wouldn't be as driven.
We lose our appetite for risk. You've done a lot of stuff. You're like,
yeah. You've lost a lot more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. And so anyway, is that who built the first guns?
No.
Oh,
they said that we lost the Mark 19 contract. So that wrote. This is the super short version of all. You can imagine all the 2 a.m.s drawing on stuff, getting local machine shops to or fabrication shops to press break you metal.
I was there for 5 years. I get it.
So he did that, bumming. It would be like the equivalent of sleeping on your friend's couches. I'm just bumming around machine shops trying to get this stuff made. Yeah. So all of that happened while he was running the photography business. While I was whatever I was, 4 years old. Then I had a sister. So he's got these 2 little kids at home in a rental house. When I was born, we lived in, I can't even call it a studio. It's like an attic. We lived in an attic in one of my grandfather's rental houses that you climbed up a wood staircase on the outside of the house. Man. You've seen them it would
Chris Jefferson, you moving on up because you live in that big palace now.
Dude, but my mom had a Monte Carlo, boy, with white walls.
Every fancy woman in the 80s had a Monte Carlo in the South.
My dad always made sure, but I mean, my dad, I remember him driving salvage cars, like a Volkswagen Scirocco with it was black with a white door on it, because he got it from the junkyard because the other one was wrecked. So it was... the original rifle was built at the end of our gravel driveway in a wood shed with a gravel floor that Dad bought a carpet for. and put down, like, rolled out carpet over gravel, and then they realized that you would lose roll pins or springs if they fell on the carpet, so they flipped the carpet over so it was backing, so you could find the pin if you dropped it. So that's where the first rifle was, like, hammered together, welding.
It sounds like
grinding.
Iron Man when he's over, and
cave.
he's in cave, imprisoned, and makes the suit.
So that house is in downtown Murfreesboro, right off of Main Street. Like, all the rich people lived on Main Street. It's where all the nice historic houses, and it's amazing. And their backyards is where people like us lived. You know, like just right off of Main Street. So it's this little house, this rental house, and that's I should have gone
buy it.
It's not in our family anymore. I should have gone and got the original shed and, like, deconstructed it and put it in storage, like in flat, to rebuild it one day for the museum.
Put the prototype in there in the Smithsonian or something,
like with a wax figure of Ronnie Barrett, with like a hacksaw
with that hair.
Yeah. Oh,
Looking for roll pins on the floor.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's
Little shorts.
really how it started. And, you know, it's because a guy thought it would be cool to shoot a 50 cal, but, like, at the time, you know, M2's a hassle. You know, it's crew served, which means it takes more than one dude. Like, it's 75 pounds. You have to have belts. It burns money.
Well, yeah, because I used to, when we were talking about imported ammo, so I still have pallets of the Greek ammo that I bought, 69 cents a round, linked. And that's what I shoot. But when I go to shoot my M2s, you know, I take the gun, take the barrel, that's 2 trips, take the tripod with T&E and pintle, then you set it up, headspace, timing, deep breath, pop a couple rounds.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like, it's 30, 45 minutes to set the gun up just to shoot it. So it's very different than, taking your Glock or taking your AR to the range, pop a mag in it and shoot.
Right.
Like, and if you fuck up, it can kill you.
So that was the motivation for Ronnie Barrett to make a 50 cal rifle. It was not for a military requirement. It was pure enjoyment of our freedom and our creative abilities and our creative freedom in this country to be able to do that.
It's awesome.
You know, if you lived in a communist place where you weren't allowed to touch a firearm, you would never invent anything like this.
That's true.
Unless some institute, you know, funded by the government was paying you to sit in front of a drawing board and do it.
Saying that, you know, thinking about, like, liberals in this country that want to shut gun companies down, and I'm always like, the first thing, okay, we're going to buy our guns from the Chinese or the Russians.
Right.
Yeah. What if they want to invade us and don't want to sell us guns? Like, who makes the guns? Like, you want to have a government program because the government's so fucking efficient.
We used to try to do that. I mean, there were arsenals, and we shut them down because the government doesn't do anything efficient.
No. So, with that being said, so Ronnie Barrett with his short shorts in the gravel garage, humble beginnings. How many countries utilize the Barrett 82 or 107 now?
Man, it's in, I want to say 60 or something. Like, it's everywhere. You know, all NATO allies have some relationship with it, if it's an official fielding or special purchase.
Yeah.
But we have, you know, we have a long list that it's official fieldings where they have their own names. You know, Norway, NG82.
Yeah.
Germany, Gewehr 82. You know, Germany. The Germans adopted a rifle made by Tennesseans.
That is pretty funny. If you've spent any time with HK or Germans, I mean, you guys would realize, I mean, their philosophy is they hate everyone that's not German. Everyone's stupid that's not German.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
it's unusual for them to buy firearms elsewhere, and it's really unusual for them to have one made in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So.
Okay, so well then, what happened in those 20 years? So we're talking about 1982, and it's like officially adopted, I think, by our military, which should have been the first. 20 years later,
but it wasn't the U.S. first. And I hope I get this right. I might need data. I believe it was Sweden.
It's not surprising. I will say, even with my old companies, Sweden's always been an early adopter. They're very progressive. Sweden, Norway, Denmark, like those countries are pretty great. But, like, what was going on with Barrett? Chris and Ronnie Barrett, 1982 to 2002. Like, what were you guys doing? Where were the guns going? Who was the consumer? You guys developed more guns in that time period?
Dad started suitcasing this rifle, you know, to things early. And this is part of the...
so to people that want to understand, that means he, like, basically packed it in a suitcase, went around trying to sell it.
Yeah. You know, if you're suitcasing, that means you don't have a dime to buy your own booth at a trade show or to hire a sales force. It means you are hoofing it out there on the street, peddling your product. Like, and this is how, in this country, you know, with capitalism, you can start something. And
American Dream.
He took it to the Houston Gun Show and like set it on a table with a VHS player that he says he looped the tape because he could only make the rifle
fire a few times.
And so it would look like, look at it rip off these 5 rounds. Boom, boom. You're just like looping tape.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
took
I
orders.
admire your dad, the fact that he's willing to admit that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, it's cool. It's cool after you made it. Like, you can fake it till you make it, but then when you make it, you can tell all this stuff.
But knowing him and understanding a little bit of the story, like his very first prototype, he's able to get 1 or 2 rounds to fire at a time. But he knew and wasn't going to give up. Mm-hmm. He knew it was going to work and be successful. He knew that wasn't the end. That was just the beginning. And he was on to something.
So that was called Model 82, and that's what he did know. And it's been refined and refined since then. And then A1 came along, I think maybe in 86.
Do you know what the difference? Do you
Yes.
remember? Okay, what's the
It's
difference?
the thing that makes it really, really work. It's the accelerator system that's in the bolt carrier. The accelerator system, the Model 82 series is a recoil-operated firearm, which means it does not utilize gas coming off of the back of the bullet. The AR-15s that we're familiar with, or the AK-47 port gas off of the barrel and capture the expanding high-pressure gas that is behind the projectile after the projectile passes that port, and uses that energy, that gas, to make the rifle operate. Recoil-operated firearms like a handgun, like a pistol,
or the M250.
The M2 use energy from the recoil of the exiting bullet that moves the mass of the barrel and uses that energy to operate the action. So that's how
a moving barrel.
Yes. And, it wasn't the first rifle like that. John Browning did that stuff a long time ago, and somebody might have done it before him. A recoiling barrel, I mean.
Yeah. John Browning wasn't the first, but the M2 is like probably the most significant gun that I can think of.
I think the A5 shotgun it's a long recoil operated. It's significant, and it's amazingly reliable. So good recoil operated firearms can be very reliable. And often they have less, there's less fouling because we're not moving gas around. Like, all the gas is just going at the end of the barrel.
Yeah, well, it. When you think about, it's not as accurate as it could be having a moving barrel. But if you put a mass like a big piston over an AK-47, you're not going to get the accuracy because you have a big mass reciprocating over the barrel. So like the AR to me is an improvement in that regard, because then we have just an impingement. So we have a tube that funnels gas, so you're not giving a mass that moves. Yeah, there's no perfect solution, but what it does enable you to do with that moving barrel is to have something that's lightweight that you could potentially shoulder fire.
Yes. So it mitigates recoil. It uses recoil energy and dissipates it into the reciprocating the operation system.
Yeah, so the cycling of the firearm.
So the A1, the big thing about it was the M82 had a bolt carrier in the most simple form, a massive bolt carrier and a barrel. The barrel recoiled until it came to a stop, and then it stopped, and then the bolt carrier continued to travel on and just rip the cartridge out of the chamber. Because the barrel came to an abrupt stop, and then the bolt carrier keeps going and just rips it out.
So your hope there is that you've passed enough pressure on out the muzzle of the barrels, it's low enough where you can extract the case.
Correct.
Is this okay? Well, let me ask you this then: is the 82A1 when the guy from Leader Dynamics came to Barrett?
Ooh, I don't know.
You don't know that one?
This is around 86 or 85, and the big significant change was what's called the accelerator system, and it's a lever and a rod, energy transfer rod that is in the bolt carrier that causes the bolt carrier at a certain point of its rearward travel to accelerate faster than the speed of the total moving mass. So it starts leaving. Imagine like if I'm about to rear end you on the interstate, but you start pulling away from me. That's what it does. The accelerator system accelerates the bolt carrier to a speed faster than the barrel, so that it runs away from it, and there's no hard stop and rip out of the chamber. It's more of a gradual.
Yeah, so sort of more like a long recoil. Like basically, the AR shoots nice because you have the carrier stops in the receiver, but the recoiling mass doesn't stop in the receiver. You have the barrel extension, and so you're losing energy, and the urethane buffer ends. So you get it's a soft shooting gun compared to something that abruptly stops.
Yes.
So like a G36. Is a good example. The H&K gun, very reliable, great gun, but when you shoot it compared to an AR, it sucks, like recoil-wise and stuff, because of what you're saying. And same thing with the MCX at them to some degree. You're housing everything within the receiver, so a short distance, and so you have less mass. And
it's another hard thing to explain, but you hear often people say it shoots soft, shoots smooth. Yeah. Like it's this kind of intangible thing, but once you shoot it, I know what he's talking about. It's like the recoil impulse, and it's very shocking with the 82 again, because you go back to this, massive display of energy, this like sensory overload when you see an M2 go off, to think that I'm going to shoot that, and then you shoot it, and it's like, well, it was loud. And I felt the concussion, but it's like, that didn't hurt at all. It does not hurt. Like, in fact, shooting a 12-gauge shotgun is much worse than shooting an 82.
Yes.
The actual felt recoil.
That's not pleasant.
No, 3.5 inch especially. But I tell you, that 20 millimeter that I've got in the hallway there, my Solitaire S18 1000, so similar, recoil. But, that barrel probably weighs 100 pounds. Like, that's a big gun. And I was so terrified to shoot it. I didn't know anyone who had ever shot one when I shot that. The first time I shot it was actually for doing the sounds for Saving Private Ryan. I was terrified. It shoots soft. It's just the recoil is soft but long, and it pushes you back like a foot, but it's not a mule kicking you.
Yeah.
It's just a slow push back. So you could shoot it all day, actually. But, of course, the receiver weighs 100 pounds. The barrel weighs 100. You got a 200-pound gun, basically.
It's energy over time,
Yeah.
And divided by mass. And, hey, listen to the John Ross, the Solitaire. Like, that's a
in there.
Solitaire, Missouri.
Used it to, like, shoot up the bad guys.
Yeah. Henry Bowman was the character's
Was
name.
it?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it was the S18 1000. All right. Well, okay. So there's a big change and improvement in the gun in 1986. Who's buying the guns, and how is Barrett doing? And is it your father's only company at the time?
Yeah. Well, he was still hanging on to the photography as you would, and it wasn't great. It was like, we are not. So what we are not is a story of American business prowess from the beginning. That's not what we are. And he admits that as well. We were not a financially managed company at all. We were a passion-driven company, totally. And might not have been here if we were a financially managed company, because he was selling stuff for less than what it cost to make it. And he admits that. He tells it in a longer way. Well, I thought I was going to make the first ones for $2,000, so I sold them for $4,000, but they cost me $6,000. So for those,
I've been there. I mean, I think the first decade of advanced armament was that way, and I started sorting stuff out and started making money.
It's like the more of these we sell, the more money we lose. Like, we got to stop this until you finally start getting in the black, And so, if you had, man, so much to learn here. Like, and I want for my kids to understand business so that they can take whatever they're passionate about and then actually thrive doing that.
It's a balance, because I think, which we've talked about a lot of times, but even last night, if you and I had gone to engineering school or business school, would we do what we've done? Would we be successful? Like, I don't know that I would have found something I was passionate about. Like, I'm pretty confident, like, I'll never starve to death. Like, no matter the route I would have taken, I'd be able to make a living. Most people can. But, had your dad understood the business aspect of it, he probably would have never done the gun. It's like too high risk. Like, I mean, my financial advisor and stuff like that, and probably yours too, it's just like, oh my God, the number of attorneys I have, and I'm sure you do as well. Like, I've got a personal attorney that up until a couple months ago just works for me. And like, that's ridiculous. But it's all to mitigate risk, to try to keep me out of trouble, essentially, like whatever it is. And with finance, it's always the same thing. Like, you should be happy, if we can get you 5%, 10% a year on your, like, whatever it is. And it's like, So you would never, if you went into it with that financial mindset, your dad probably would have never done it.
I think there's a way, though, to prioritize it where this is a financial toolkit for you, a business running toolkit. You don't have to know everything. But do you know how many people a year in the United States or around the world have great ideas, but then cannot stay in business 3 months to make it ever happen? They can't even explore their passion. You go broke.
Yeah, I've never known a person for any length of time in my personal life, I think, that didn't have a great idea.
Right. And it's, but like, make it happen. So I'm not talking about finance to the point of choking passion and innovation. I'm just talking about the toolkit that allows you to do what you love without screwing it up.
Well, I take it for granted so much, because I've worked 2 years in my life out of 30, and it was the second year after Remington bought my company and the second year I worked at SIG. Every other year, I feel like, is a blessing, and I won a competition, and I get to stay here and do this. And like, what, you pay me? When I sold Advanced Armament, it didn't even occur to me I was going to continue to get paid until we negotiated my salary. And I'm like, in my mind, I just got a whole bunch of money, and that was a gift to me. And now we can make it way bigger because I have the resources of a big company. And I wasn't even concerned with personally anymore because I had enough money. And I didn't even consider it. It was strange to me, but yeah, I don't know. If I thought more financially, would I take the risks that I did to develop the stuff that I do and continue to do it today? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's hard to say.
I don't know, but I think it's very responsible of you taking that attitude with your kids, at least.
Well, I mean, I just learned this in the last decade. Because I grew up total Wild West on this stuff also. Hey, we got $1 million, spend $999.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's buy more machines.
If you believe in what you're doing, I think it's very common. Mm-hmm. But stuff can go sideways quick, as you know, especially with something as expensive to make as the Barrett M107 or the M82. Mm-hmm. So what was Barrett doing for 20 years?
So after, peddling this rifle at the Houston Gun Show and trying to get, getting deposits from, just wealthy firearms. As you see some new prototype come out that, you don't even know if it's ever going to be made. I want the first one of those. So, it was kind of that deal. And then the first, like I said, I hope I don't mess this up. I'm pretty sure this is correct. It was Sweden.
Well, you can reserve the right to change your mind.
Okay.
Later. Yeah.
I believe it was Sweden that used the rifle first in the role of an explosive ordnance disposal tool.
Oh.
For the application of smudding, which SMUD's an acronym that stands for something, I don't know, stands for something. It's when you cause a low
That's what
order.
acronyms do.
Yeah, they you damage an unexploded ordnance so that it doesn't have a high order explosion. So if there's a warhead out here in the yard, we back up 500 yards and we shoot it and damage it, and then it won't blow up. So it's just a super, before we had all the Hurt Locker stuff, with a robot coming up and taking the thing. I was we'll just shoot that thing and break it, and then we'll go pick it up later. And actually, I think they still use it for that today too. So
it just won't blow up at all, or it won't blow up as much. Or who knows?
I've never tried it. I don't know. I'm assuming.
I think depends on the construction, but some
we should Google
it won't blow up.
Google smudding, see what we get.
You can hurt the bomb.
Yeah,
so you can mess up the bomb. So Sweden used it that way, and then and then other people started taking note. Dad, during the process of this suitcase selling, he was going to Association of the United States Army annual meetings and symposiums that were in Washington, D.C., in the Omni Hotel. This is another good old day stuff for me.
NCI, what was it
AUSA.
called? AUSA. Oh, that's the Army one, yeah.
Association of the United States Army.
Okay,
and you would go to this, and it was in the old school Omni Hotel in D.C. It's not there anymore. This is another good old day thing I remember, creaky floor hotels, fancy. But the big ballroom, Raytheon is in there, GD, ATK, the big dogs.
And that's where the honey badger happened. That's why it was AUSA in a hallway.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. But I
don't want to. Stuff happens.
Always circle back to me, but I understand what you're saying because the people who can make the decisions are there.
Yeah,
and that sometimes that's the only FaceTime you get with them.
Correct.
And in a hallway, that's how the honey badger happened. A 1-2 minute conversation.
And everybody out there definitely does not see this side of our business, and it could not be any higher contrast from the picture of Knob Creek we just painted for you, or the Houston Gun Show. Those are gun shows. That's red-blooded, American guys like us and gals looking at guns and all this stuff. That's one thing. And people often ask me when we go to SHOT Show, oh, you going to that big gun show? Well, it's not a gun show. So AUSA is not a gun show.
No, not at all.
In fact, guns, there are a couple of booths in there of people that manufacture guns, but you also see, unmanned aircraft drones, Oshkosh vehicles, huge vehicles.
So basically this is every tier of the Army, everything they would consider buying.
So is it like a bigger Suffolk?
Well,
Suffolk is cooler because it's more guns and vehicles.
Yeah, Suffolk is special operations.
Right.
This is like that, but just the Army.
Big Army.
And just like you would think, special operations, the Army, they take themselves very seriously. So if you go to the dinner, you have to wear a suit and shit.
Yeah,
so I've never been to a dinner.
You'll walk up to a huge booth the size of this house at AUSA, and it's what do you guys do? Oh, we handle sanitation of wastewater. Mobile sanitation solutions for water. Or we do training for what? Like, training for HR stuff. You know, like, so it's AUSA. It's like, you can imagine the Army is like running a country.
Yeah.
So guns are nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like
Yeah.
nothing in the
But
budget.
of course, like most things, it's kind of the cool boosts, like mobility or firearms or any of that. Those are the cool boosts. The thermal. Yeah, I got a quick suffix. So the SOCOM version of this show is in Tampa every year, and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
But I will say AUSA was better for me overall for, my past company in my career. But I was in Suffolk one time, so the Special Operations show in Tampa, and we're walking through there, and I'm with one of my engineers, super nerd. We're walking past the General Dynamics booth, and it's amazing. They got a new booth that year. It was all modern, looked like Star Wars, and this had to be 12 years ago. And we turn and look at it, and I'm like, my God, that's amazing. I want a booth like that. And the engineer that's with me says, you know what's funny is the kid that owns Facebook has more money than that company.
Yeah.
And this was 12 years ago. Anyway, a little tidbit out the road.
So that's, this is where Ronnie Barrett was suitcasing with the rifle and getting it. He says
it's the place to be. That was smart.
He said he was sneaking it onto other people's tables that sold like night vision, but like, hey, wouldn't this night vision look cooler with this awesome space rifle underneath it?
Yeah.
And so he would get
I used to do the same thing.
exposure, and you don't own a booth. I mean, when you can't afford to buy a $30,000 booth or whatever it would cost in those days, that's how he did it. And the other thing that people need to realize about AUSA, it's not just United States military there, it's our allies. So all those other guys are walking around too, and you have to get good at recognizing the uniforms, who's got what camis on or whatever their dress is, and no, those are Canadians, those are Norwegians, Israel's over here, so all those guys are there, right?
Yep.
And so he started going there, and that's how we started getting that's how you have to get some international exposure. So in those 20 years, this is what was happening. Sweden came on, and I don't know who all started picking it up after that, but it wasn't until, for the United States, it was not until the U.S. Air Force. The U.S. Air Force procured Model 82A1s, also for EOD.
Oh, it was?
Also for EOD, same deal.
Because I was thinking, what would they be shooting they wouldn't have a belt fed for? But there you go.
EOD work, and it's like, we don't think about Air Force. We don't think about parachute jumpers either, like the, PJs.
Yeah, Jay. Air Force.
So, but yeah, that's how it first got in. And then the way I kind of perceived that it went down after that is Rangers, who are very different from Air Force EOD, Army Rangers started seeing, the way I tell it is, they started seeing this thing. This is how I perceived it. They started seeing this gun out here that was not a firearm. It didn't come in as a weapon. Like, to get a weapon into the U.S. military inventory, to get an M number, it is a very involved process.
Yeah.
But if you're buying an EOD tool, it's like credit card.
Yeah.
Like, we need some
Oh,
EOD
really?
tools.
Oh, that's
Yes.
interesting. So they did it
Yes.
for that too. Okay, so what years are we talking here with Air
This
Force
is-
and Army?
This is
Thereabouts.
80s, late 80s maybe.
Oh, it was. Okay.
I'm guessing around. Like, I remember going to Eglin Air Force Base when I was a kid because we could get on it, and
yeah.
that was probably the 80s, like 87, 88.
Okay, so for 6 or 7 years, how's Barrett selling guns, or who are they selling to, or how's there any income, or is there any?
It was tight. It was Dad had to look for money. He tells that he had to borrow some money. Went into $1 million into debt, which in those days was a lot, dude.
Yeah.
It was a lot, and he always says, like, $1 million is not a lot if you have it, but if you owe it to somebody, it's like a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, now you and I could both get $1 million PO with one phone call today.
Right.
But yeah, in the 80s.
Yeah, and starting up like this, and bootstrapping up a company, we advertise in Shotgun News. That's another thing that people will never have the joy of,
Shotgun
flipping
News.
through a Shotgun
Oh.
News, like a black and white print book where you bought your machine gun
There's a
parts.
newspaper that was set
A
up like a
newspaper.
book. It was a monthly thing, and there was no internet market boards or anything. So if you wanted to buy a machine gun or 50 caliber ammo or whatever, you got that, and you looked through it really quickly, find the classifieds that you wanted so you could buy it before everybody else did.
So the one
So
that had like
fun.
Ninja Stars and butterfly knives.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. CDNN and those guys, like, surplus magazines.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sten
Gas
magazines,
mask.
$1 a piece. I still have like boxes of hundreds of Sten magazines. I bought them for $1 a piece in the Cosmoline.
Do you have any Smith & Wesson 76 mags?
Oh boy, don't I?
Can I get like 5 or 6 of them?
Yes, and I can tell you how you can make some very cheap.
I made some from the
Port Said Max.
I did. I modified them. I just trimmed them, and they work good. But I would just like to have some real Smith & Wesson.
Some real
mags.
ones. Yeah, I've got them.
Sorry for the sidebar.
No, it's good.
Got them in storage. I'm moving my stuff from George here. As I get them, I'll send you some.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's what happened in the early days. Sweden EOD, Air Force EOD, Rangers took note, and again, getting a firearm into the U.S. military inventory is no small feat.
Because that actually doesn't really happen until like the M107. I think that's after 9/11.
Yes,
That's crazy.
Way after Desert Storm, because Rangers were using them though unofficially. I mean, so stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, hey, let me get some of them rifles over here.
So for those listening, the Gulf War really started in 1991.
Yeah, Operation Desert Shield, right?
Is that what I think Shield? Yeah, and so the 9/11, 10 years later is the one everyone thinks, but it was going on before that. I was a junior in high school, or maybe a senior, but that's when it happened.
Those rifles were being used then, and Marine scout snipers had them, M82A3 Sassers.
So, okay, so is this when the first Gulf War, we'll call it, when it started being used to stop like mobility and stuff, when they started shooting vehicles with it? Is that how, like, within the military, the M82 or the 107 really came to be? Is that the driven purpose now?
Engaging light armor and equipment,
vehicles.
But as you know, a lot of personnel have been engaged. Also,
I got a question about that.
So a lot of that's happened, but I think that was its. I think that was maybe its original perceived role.
Yeah.
But just like any decent tool, people are like, well, we can do this with this also.
Well,
can
Carlos
do that.
Hathcock in Vietnam using
Slapping
the
a scope
M2
on
with the
M2.
nurdle on it,
Yeah.
shooting people with it at 2,000 yards. Okay, well, we're going to skip ahead here pretty quick, but so is that when you think you or your father decided Barrett was actually successful and that's your vocation? Like, you're not going to do? So is it like when the military officially adopts it? Is it 9/11 to where there's no turning back? We're making money here. We're going to continue to support the troops. The gun's successful commercially, the gun's successful in the military realm with,
There was some point in the 80s where the photography studio got shuttered, and I don't know when that is. I'd have to check with Dad on that. But that's kind of burning your ships on the shore. Like, we're done. Like, we're not sailing back.
Yeah.
It's over. Burn the ship. So, and that would be what I equate the.
Well, that's a different phase.
Yeah.
I mean, but to the point where you can take a breath.
Yeah.
And
I don't know all that. I mean, bear in mind, at this kid, at this age, I'm a grade school kid. Like, I just want, $50 for the cool sneakers. I don't know how much money, anybody had or how the business was doing. But I I've heard Dad talk about it. It was not always comfortable for a long, long time. Again, we are not financial management people, and it's, we made decisions to buy things based on whether or not the money was there or not. And a thing I've learned, in the last few years is you make decisions for a company how to buy things, whether or not it's a good business decision or not. You figure out how to finance it later. Like, you don't buy a machine because you have $1 million. Well, we got $1 million to buy a machine. No. Like, do we need the machine? And so
it's like, that's how we get the $1 million.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. I love the growth of the company. And so for me with Q, I know this is my favorite time. Like, the products were innovating nonstop. Now we're very financially sound. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably even getting a little lazy, but when I have to do it to feed the families, because, I've never had a layoff in 30 years. I've never laid anyone off, no matter the politics and all. We've let some people go, but that was just a personnel thing individually, weren't the right fit or whatever, but never suffered from that. And so I think as much as I'm willing to risk financially, I've always been, by design. I mean, originally the first company, I wanted debt and couldn't get it. Yeah. And I just learned to operate without it. But now with the company, it's like looking at growing the machine shop, looking at doing all these things. And I think what you're saying is where Adam and I are now is like, well, oh my God, do we want to spend $1 million on that? Well, okay, let's look at this year's projection. Okay, it's going to cost us $2 million not to spend this $1 million now. Mm-hmm. And so you're just stupid. You have to do it. It's
Right.
like, do we want to spend $1 million on these machines? No. But
Well, you made the decision based on the outcome,
yeah.
not on whether or not we could afford it.
Yeah. I mean, basically.
Because sometimes you can get something even if you can't afford it out of cash. I mean, and if you need to use debt, you need to do that if it's a sound business decision. But
Yeah. I mean, I think with my history, I mean, we don't even do it, but I would love to. But I could use debt responsibly because I'm, you know.
it's a motivator for a lot of companies.
For a lot of people. I mean, I think I do it differently. Like, I like my back being against the wall, but not necessarily at this age after everything I've been through financially. So I don't know that it has a lot of bearing on me, but it's just we look at it and it's like, if we believe in the product, we believe we're going to grow 100% this year. Let's look at the end of the year. Would we want this stuff? The answer is yes. We need to do it right now.
Yeah.
We're already behind.
I thought this was a gun podcast, wasn't it?
I know. Okay.
What are you drinking?
Well, let's get to it. Tequila. What you got?
Some of this
that
High West whiskey. Let's get it in us.
All right, let's go.
Is this happening?
Oh.
Okay, so to Firearms. I mean, I think that kind of tells a story, and that's who Ronnie Barrett is. And he's just an interesting character to me, even within the industry. You know, no different than Reed Knight, and saying that with like the highest regard. Like Reed Knight, Knight's Armament. When I got into firearms, I actually didn't even know what the Barrett was. Like, I'd never heard of it until I was actually in the guns. But Knight's Armament and HK are the reasons I got into the industry. Yeah. Companies that inspired me. And your dad, no different than Reed Knight in my eyes. Like, he's going to do this thing. He's going to be successful. And smart guy would probably, your dad and Reed probably be successful at anything they did. But it took a lot of grit and a lot of risk. And, you know, it's never, I mean, the people, you know, I mean, the people that make all the money are the people that are willing to risk, it seems. You know, if you want something that's a guarantee, you know, your dad wouldn't have done a shoulder-fired 50.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, why in the world would that ever be successful? And, you know, what I love is you know, in the 30 years I've been in the industry, is like, you know, the 50 was starting to die, it seemed a little bit, the M107, where we go, you know, for instance, after 9/11, and I think that's probably when y'all's gun was adopted. But then, you know, the main target, Bin Laden, we go in the Hindu Kush after him, and they want soldiers to have a single gun and ammo they can carry and shoot 1,600 meters, and 338 Lapua Magnum comes on. From my perspective, and I want to hear yours, and it's like that kills the 50 a little bit. And then they develop AI, or you know, our AP 338, so armor piercing.
Yeah.
But what they find is it doesn't stop vehicles and stuff.
Yeah, the so interest in programs and certain tools does ebb and flow over the years, and it happens because we have. I mean, there's a lot of turnover or throughput of people in the military.
Yeah, the guys that make those decisions, and at the
They're
highest
there for
level,
a year and they're gone.
Maybe. Because what people don't realize, these aren't career guys. Like, at the most elite level, the guys that are the most, and you disagree with me if you want, but from my perspective, the most influential guys, they are in that job in the most elite organization in the history of the world because they are, 1, injured, 2, maybe getting divorced, 3, retiring. And they are there for 6 months to a year. And they have their own philosophy. Sometimes that guy's a sniper. You know, sometimes he's not. So I went through several generations of that. And they influence SOCOM and Big Army more than anyone that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I can't say why they're there, but the fact is that they are there for some period of time, and they're gone, and your program may not have interest in it anymore.
Yeah, and what people don't realize is the organization I'm talking about, they are all operators. They are all guys who are currently in the group, but they're on some sort of break, and they've been there, done that. And a lot of times, I mean, those guys are very different. I mean, even within those organizations, the most elite groups, some of the guys love guns. Some of the guys, it's just a tool like anything else. Yeah. And some of the guys are snipers, so they have their own philosophies on long-range stuff.
So the 338 that you're bringing up to all this point, yes, that happened. And we started having this it's kind of like mission drift for your product. Like, I think what happened was we started losing our memory of what the 82 system, the M107 system does. and we started kind of painting it into another box. The funny thing about the M107 is it's called a long-range sniper rifle.
It is?
That's what it's called in the U.S. military inventory, a long-range sniper rifle.
Is that what Barrett called it? No, what I would call it.
I don't see it particularly in that role in the traditional way that we think about a sniper rifle.
All right, well, I want to ask you a question because I agree. But what is the longest shot you know of confirmed kill enemy combatant with a 107 or M82?
The one I'm most familiar with is that Staff Sergeant Nick Randstad, U.S. Army, because he was in our documentary on Discovery Channel called Snipers Inc. If anybody wants to see that, it's a good show. He was in that, and it was over 2,000, and he told how it happened. It's kind of a lot like the story you told earlier. They were in a fixed position with the rifle, and there was a big boulder, like 2,000 plus out there.
So he was able to range that already.
Doping it every day. Like we shoot that boulder every day. And well, today a guy stepped out in front of it. It's like we know the dope. Like I'm dialed for it. I know exactly where to hold. And the dude stepped out and he got dealt. So
that's awesome.
I don't know the exact range. And it always bounces back and forth between the United States, Canada, and the Aussies of who's got the longest shot. And so I don't know, but that's a big bragging point and something people always ask me about. And I never know the exact number.
Well, it's pretty cool. I mean, I tell you videos and stuff that I've seen. For instance, an organization or a group that goes, without notice a lot of times, but the Coast Guard. I've seen so many great videos of the Coast Guard in helos shooting boats, running drugs and stuff with the Barrett.
Hitron.
Those are great.
Hitron team and 160th Sword does a lot of shooting like that. So the thing on 338 versus 50 and that whole thing, like when the interest started dying off maybe in it, and I think it's because of this, we see something the way we name it. And when you start calling that thing a sniper rifle and try to force it into that pigeonhole into that role, well, we all know that 82 is not what you shoot this coffee cup out of my hand with at 1,000 meters. That's not what you use for that.
I mean, you're right. When you say sniper, it's got to be half MOA.
It's not. The M107 is not that precise. That is not its strong suit. It's not why the rifle is effective. The rifle is effective because it weighs 30 pounds base, and it carries 10 rounds that you can rip off with reasonable accuracy and deliver major payload. And 338 sniper rifles and 300 normal mags, they do not do that. The two rifles don't have the same role. So if I'm guarding a street, a rooftop, a dam, if I'm guarding an embassy, and from who knows what, do you want to be laying there with a rifle that shoots quarter MOA and I can fire like as fast as I can crank, or do you want to be laying there with an M107 loaded with Raufoss? There is a truck coming down the street it's got a machine gun
basically
in the back.
incendiary,
Boom, boom, boom.
armor piercing, blowing stuff up. Right?
I would not want to be there with my 338 bolt gun. I want that 50 that I can waste
from.
Well, it's super effective on target, but then it's a good psychological weapon too.
Oh yeah, like Raufoss rounds start popping around you, boom, boom, boom. Just as fast as you can pull the trigger, and you can. If there was a vehicle rolling down this road 300 meters out, I can empty that 10-round magazine into that thing at 300 meters so fast, like as fast as I can get the trigger pulled.
All right,
it's amazing.
I want to say a couple things. First off, it's a good point. Like an engine block is basically at 1,000 meters, 4 or 5 MOA.
Yeah.
So do you need to be half MOA, or you want to be reliable and fast? Excellent point. Second of all, I watched a video on Jerry Mikulak. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
I think so.
And he shot a Barrett 107.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I mean,
standing.
I mean, he's an Elon Musk alien. But yeah, standing, and he's not a giant man. He's smaller than me, but a man's man. He shot the 107, 20-inch barrel, I believe.
Yeah.
6 rounds in under 1 second on target.
Yeah.
Like, incredible. I didn't believe it when I saw the caption of the video. Watched it 2 times.
Yeah.
My man can shoot. So
the rifle does that.
650 caliber rounds into something in under 1 second, accurately.
And that was at a shorter range, but it does.
He's also standing.
Yeah.
Not a big fellow.
There is an outfit that I know I'm aware of and I follow them on Instagram called TacFlow, and they do a lot of training for police with 50 calibers. They have a 50 caliber interdiction course. They show a lot of shooting moving vehicles. It's amazing.
Watch Killdozer. I mean, man, every Yeah, every police department should have one because you can stop a vehicle with a 50 cal. But my understanding, going back to what I was talking about, some of the groups that were early adopters of 338 to replace the role of the 50 were the first people to go back to 50 for vehicle interdiction because the 338 armor-piercing rounds wouldn't stop it reliably, where 50 cal... And
it's that and the 10-round semi-automatic ability. It's
you don't get it in a 338.
It's different. They're not the same role.
No.
And if I needed to hit, if I needed 70% first round hits at 1,000 on people, it's not what I would take.
Valid point.
Man, I used to be like y'all. I was out here in the cold, didn't know what to wear. I'd have a date. I might be late, didn't know what to do. Tactical Distributors changed my life. Impossible 15 got me 15% off. It was like a fashion mullet. Business up front, party in the back.
It's interesting because I get a lot of industry hate. I think, and I don't know why. I mean, it can't be because I run my mouth.
I don't know why.
But I think our products are in more direct competition with other companies. Like you guys, when I started thinking about your core product, and I think that's changing, which we'll get to. But with the 50, do you have like really industry competition or haters?
I think it's felt that way in the past. I think those guys. I think that vibe is kind of going away. But it's on the 50 cal alley. I mean, we own that alley.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't even think of competition anymore.
So it's like when we see like Armalite used to have a 50 caliber single shot, and it's like, hey, that's cool. You see one around us, we're all friends. Like
they don't anymore.
I don't even know if they make it anymore. I have no idea. That company has changed hands and
I didn't even know.
Yeah, they became part of a group.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so you being a little kid going to work at Barrett. Mm-hmm. So what's your role been, and I kind of know some of this, and what was the first gun you were really involved in the development side of?
It's a rifle that is not in current production, but it is called the Model 98, not 98B. It is a semi-automatic 338, and you've never seen anything like it. There's one. I designed it on Pro Engineer, and it is weird. It looks like... Honestly, it looks like an Accuracy International AEWI or whatever. It looks like that thumbhole stock, but it operates semi-automatically. Really? It looks like a bolt action that cycles itself. It's the weirdest thing. Like it, yeah.
Well, what happened? Why isn't it in production?
Well, this would be the part where the movie fades back to how this started. So 98. It was a Model 98, as our industry does. We name things after the year. We used to. That's going away. But I graduated high school in 96.
See, I thought the single shot 50 was your
that was
deal.
99.
Oh, it's the Model 99. Okay.
98 is the predecessor. It's a weird
So you,
thing.
like your dad, Crazy Barrett's, you jump in the deep end. You're like, hey, I'm going to do 338 semi-auto.
Yeah.
Right after. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead with your story.
So, my early stuff, of course I did early stuff in the company. I was out there stress relieving welds, like when I was a little kid, like, 10 years old, like with a acetylene torch and some glasses on. And I did all that stuff, deburring and grinding, assembling. I think I assembled 300 sets of scope rings onto scopes for a country that, like it was fielded on the rifles. Like all the scopes were mounted by like a 13-year-old, So... I don't know. Like, so that's
reality is what we're talking about.
I've been in it, So I was doing all that stuff, and I was always fascinated by what was going on at the home shop, which the shop Barrett was at my home for the first part of my life. Even though we moved, it went from that.
Oh, so he continued the garage situation.
Yeah, we moved to a bigger garage.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So we got a house with 2 stories.
Oh.
Yeah, boy.
Moving on
Circle
up.
driveway. And we had a nice bigger garage, and so Barrett went from one garage to another in the early days, and I did that. Then going through high school, I got into we had a drafting class in high school, so I graduated from a public high school, and wow, it was terrible, like just awful. But we did have we had a drafting class, and we had Pro Engineer, that we weren't 3D modeling in high school. Was it Pro E we had? No, it wasn't. It was AutoCAD. We had AutoCAD with a digitizer tablet. You know, where you move, it's like a Ouija board.
Yeah.
You know, you move the little target thing over the different icons, and we would draft, you know, so we're drawing in 2D. And, of course, me and all my buddies in the back row, we're in there drawing, like, car wheels, you know, like using the array function to make a wheel and doing all this cool stuff and goofing. But it did make me fall in love with, you know, design in that medium, too. Like, you know, not going from, I mean, of course, when I was a kid, I drew tanks and guns and motorcycles and cars on paper, but now like we're doing it on a screen. And you know, so I graduated high school in 1996, and I never stepped foot on a university campus. I've never been to college. I've learned a lot though. Like, so I'm a learner. I'm just not a schooler.
Well,
you know?
I want to stop you there. It's like when anyone ever asks me, people like in the industry or who my friends in the industry are, or they single you out and ask me about you, and you, you know, I got no reason to kiss your ass. I don't need a Barrett firearm. I don't need anything from you. But you're one of my favorite people in the industry. And it's, you know, you're a joy to hang out with, first of all. But to me, you're like a Renaissance man. And knowing the history of second generation, and we all know lots of second generation where it doesn't work out. But knowing that you went to high school, went to work with the family business, and seeing your growth even since the time I've known you, like personally, and that always translates into professionally. It's like inspiring to me, and like I love it and honor you with that. And it's always like a topic of conversation when people ask me about the industry, because I'm not friends with tons of people in the industry. Like, I didn't get in the industry to make friends. I don't like a lot of gun people.
Yeah.
But you, I've always admired, and like, you know, what do we spend most of our time talking about? You know, like other business, our children, education, things we've learned, how we're different than our parents, what we want for our children. That's very different. So I respect you with that.
That's touching and sincere. And I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'll give you a hug after.
I feel the same about you.
Oh.
Not on camera though.
Okay.
But
all right.
Man,
so
thank you.
You're welcome. But I mean, that's sincere. Like, you know, you and Trey and a few other people I know in the industry that I really care about and respect. You know, it's just interesting to me because, you know, the opportunity you've had, or to be like a freaking bum, you know, and just, okay, be a yes man.
That wasn't an opportunity in my family. You know, not working for Ronnie.
You know, you could, I mean, but also Ronnie, knowing him as much as I do, being a personality of such, you clearly had an opportunity to be a yes man to your father.
Yeah.
And to just do what he wanted. And that's leading. So now you didn't do that. 338 semi-auto. Like, what the hell? And then you do your own 50 cal.
Yeah, you know, and I can't say that we've been in opposition. Like, we have different styles, he and I do, but it's super. It's in retrospect now, it's all been very healthy.
Like sharpening a sword.
Yeah, absolutely.
You use decimals and
computers and decimals.
Yeah, crazy.
So progressive.
Yeah,
but that's what I did. You know, I got out of high school, and I think that summer right after high school, you know, I took a Jeep apart, like every single nut and bolt, and just. You know, I always worked on cars with Dad since I was like 12 or 13. Yeah. I was always in the shop, and you know that's where I kind of became a metal whisperer. You know, like knowing how far you can bend, like you know, welding, grinding, all that stuff. So I got a lot of skills.
Yeah,
working
education's great, but experience and a mentorship, take it any day of the week.
So I did that, and then immediately got to work at the company, and you know, I'd already been doing things for Barrett, you know, just growing up in that, but it actually coming in and punching, like we actually had a time clock, like with the card, we put it in there and pull the lever and it goes ka-chunk. You know, like we were kind of, you know, it was old school, like even in 96.
I mean, that's when I was a kid, my job, same way, yeah.
97. So I started doing that, you know, and I operated a bandsaw, and I deburred parts like endless. Like, you know, knock this corner off this, put a radius on that, put a chamfer on this.
That's good. I mean, I respect your dad for that. That's all the basic shit.
Like, sitting in front of a sandblaster for like 8 hours, like sandblasting components, parkerizing stuff, you know, and then I would move over to something else. I'm like, well, hey, can I do this? Can I assemble these subassemblies? Can I operate this CNC machine, just like put and take, or can I, you know, operate this manual mill or whatever, just simple jobs. So I kind of bounced around to different things. But one thing I did, every job I did, I was like, I always looked for a way to improve it. I was never satisfied. Yeah. So the guys would train me like, yeah, you put this, you know, 1/2-inch bar stock in here, you slide it over 7 inches, you saw it off. And I'm like, well, why am I doing one at a time? Why don't I stack 5 of these together. Furthermore, why don't I take 10 and have the welders weld them all together on the end for bar stock? So I've got like one bar and I just saw off like 10 at a time.
Yeah.
And like that pissed guys off. I think like guys that have been there like, well, why are you doing that this way? Because dude, I don't have time to do one at a time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a difference. I mean, I think I talk about it a lot with me, for instance. So I relate to you because I'm not smart enough to invent a lot of new things, but I am smart enough to improve a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I do see people, whether it's Advanced Armament or it was at Remington or SIG or our company now, where there are people, you show them a job, and there's a certain personality, they're going to do that. And there's a place for that. They're going to do the same thing, what you told them every time for the next 20 years reliably. And then we have those people, and they're the all-stars who they do that, and they do it, and they're like, well, there's a way to improve this. And before we know it, we've got production people who are making improvements, and that needs to be honored, and, we can bonus them or do whatever. But it's not everyone.
No, it's not.
No. Some people just want to fill their day because they're hourly employees. Some people want to actually, improve on the company.
Yeah. I mean, that's a cultural thing, and you and I talk about it a lot. Like, how do you get people to want to stay at Barrett, to want to grow, to inspire them? And, I want the same thing because I would much prefer to pay more money but have fewer employees. Because employees are the biggest pain in the ass. They're also your greatest asset, and it's who your company is, and it's who you need to invest in. But there's some you can't convince or save.
Well, I was just that guy, and I don't think at the time I don't think I had the idea. I mean, I didn't grasp it, that this is my company.
Yeah.
That this will be my company, that this is our family legacy, that this is a multi-generational. I don't think I grasped that at the time. I mean, I'm 17, 18 years old. I'm like, man, I want some money so I can buy a stereo for my car.
Yes.
But also
date a cuter girl. Yeah.
Right. But you also can't convince me to take 8 hours to saw this bar up if I can do it in 4. Like,
because it's all like, oh, I need to get done because I'm going to meet my friend. Yeah.
I'm like, man, I'm lazy efficient. Like, I'm going to get this done and I want this right. So I did those jobs. But then, I started, I was not satisfied. I never have been to like sit in one place for a while on anything. It's like, I've done this. I'm tired of this. And I'm looking at our drafter, our draftsman, and there's a guy that he's still at the company. He's our oldest employee.
Are you serious?
His name is Chris Vassar, an incredible guy, and it's just been with us forever, but he and Dad draft board, on an angle, sliding. I'm serious, man.
I remember seeing Doug Olson at Knight's Armament. That's what he used.
1997, it's kind of unacceptable already at this time, but that's how we were working, paper, electronic erasers where you can erase a line, like move geometry, so you could break all kinds of geometric rules. So I was like, guys, we need a computer. Like, we need a computer with all these things on. And so I bought the first computer, and I remember, man, it was like $4,500 for this workstation. It was unheard of. And my dad let me do this. So my dad, he challenges me on anything I've ever wanted to do vigorously sometimes. Yeah. And it takes a long time to convince him, but inevitably he lets me do what I need to do. And he's like, I think most of them worked out, but I got to buy
I think that's great. I mean, he probably could have benefited from that too, as smart as your dad is, like being challenged by someone else, an exterior force other than just like finances or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Someone that he respected and admired like you with your father. If he had had that, probably would have been better for him. It's great.
Well,
man.
I'm so thankful he let me do this, and I think everybody is. Like, I bought the first computer and a seat of pro engineer. So I was a pro engineer. Like that was like $4 or $5. So it was like a $4,500 computer and a $4,000 copy of this license for pro engineer.
I mean, it doesn't seem like much money now because I think typically we deal in millions. But talking back then, like a lot of times, I imagine it was with Barrett because it was with me at the time. Like every $1,000 counts.
Oh, and you talked to 1998 Ronnie Barrett about spending $8,000 to $9,000 on a box with lights on it. It's not like a thing that like, well, that thing makes parts. No, it's like a computer. Like, what?
Well, with that said, for people who are listening or watching, we just had a break, and your dad called you, and he's questioning you about his yard guy or something, if he's ripping him off.
Yeah.
So, that's just that generation. Our parents, man, they were poor.
Yeah. And been through some tough things, and those things shape you, and they shape your decision making.
Yeah.
So I bought that first workstation and put Pro Engineer on it, And Dad and I sat in the same office that was smaller than this room. His desk was like on this side, about like this, looking over there. Then my desk would have been over there, and he could see my screen. So I sat in a corner desk, files laid out, gun parts all over it. I had some digital calipers, and we sat there, and I drew this thing called the Model 98. I modeled this up. At the time, it was during the Clinton era. It was during the Clinton crime bill. So semi-automatics.
Yeah, it started in 94.
So for those of y'all, well, this isn't the greatest example, but for those of you who don't know, like, we couldn't have this on a semi-automatic rifle. We could not have this. If it had a pistol grip, it couldn't have other features.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, such as bayonet lug, flash hider.
But if it had a thumb hole, I could be semi-automatic and have a magazine. It was so stupid.
Because you had to have a 10-round mag. Otherwise,
the crime bill. So like that was the day. When we couldn't have a flash hider or a thread. We couldn't have a threaded muzzle.
No, couldn't have a threaded muzzle. That's right.
We needed a threaded muzzle, so we had a rifle. We wanted to draw a rifle with a thumb hole stock. So we were looking at that.
Yeah, basically just to circumvent stupid, regulations and laws that made liberals feel better that Clinton actually did something.
They did something, right?
Assault weapons and gun violence.
So, unfortunately, some states still suffer from that.
Are you serious?
Massachusetts, all the scary states.
Oh yeah, they're Connecticut.
Own the fun stuff. Massachusetts, New Jersey, Connecticut.
No
California.
surprise with those idiot states. Yeah.
Legislation hampers creativity and innovation. But, long story there. So I started drawing this rifle, and we were looking at the Accuracy
But it's
International
cool to
at the time.
say. I mean, that's why it had a thumb hole stock.
Yeah. It's one of the things that kind of drove it. It's the same thing that started many other features we see on rifles now. It's like, why would you do that? Because
the crime bill, for those who don't know, it was 94 to 2004, and Bush let it sunset. So you're right in the middle of it.
Right in the center of it. This is when we were paying $115 for a Glock 19 magazine that you found in a bin.
I forgot because so for those
you
listening,
couldn't have over a 10 round magazine.
Yeah, so magazines weren't illegal, but they couldn't produce, or gun companies couldn't sell magazines over 10 rounds. But what was out there was okay. So for 10 years, like if you wanted a high cap mag for your Glock 17, you had to have one. If it was 2003, it had to be a 10-year-old magazine. So the mags were $100.
I remember getting as high as $115. So if you carried a Glock 19 and you wanted 2 carry mags, you had like $250,
half the cost of the gun,
in 2 magazines, and then you shot your 10-round magazines at the range.
Yeah.
Insanity, lunacy, and like, you kids, you whippersnappers don't know how good we have it. Like, it's the goal now. Like these access to these magazines.
They might, because who wrote that crime bill?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Biden.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Joe Biden.
douchebag.
Yep.
So I mean, even AR mags, like used aluminum mags, were $35 at gun shows.
Yeah.
When they're, used aluminum mag, I don't know, before Biden at least.
$4.
Yeah, $4. New ones. We paid, I don't know, or we paid probably $8 for brand new ones.
Amazing. So that was the day, and we were looking at, at the time. So the company, I come to the company, we are a 50 caliber rifle company. We make 2 product lines: the 82 platform, which is the semi-automatic recoil operated 50, and this other rifle called the Model 95, which is a bolt action magazine fed bullpup, based on the same architecture and kind of design.
We'll put it up, Thomas. It's cool.
It is cool, and it's like,
I can't imagine what that thing costs to make.
It's awful. That's a whole nother side.
Do you guys make it right now?
We make it. We have record orders for it this year.
I should order one.
It's like, crap. We got to make more of these things. But I mean, they are hand massaged into what they are. But it's based on the same kind of sheet metal construction as the 82 series. So that was kind of like Dad's 2 rifles. He did the 82, and then he, like, in a weekend, he took parts and components from the 82 and said, let's shorten the receiver and cut this off here, and the bolt carrier should be about the same shape as the other one. So it became kind of a sister to the 82A1. It's a cool rifle. I mean,
what is it?
The Model 95.
Oh, it is?
And the receiver is hexagon shaped and clamshells apart just like the 82A1 does. It's really cool.
Yeah, I got one from you, like, 20 years ago.
So when I came to the company, that was our 2 products. That was it. Yeah. It was those 2. And then I started drawing this rifle. 338 was fresh on the scene, man.
Yeah.
This was like 97 or 98. And
338 Lapua Magnum. I don't know.
The special operators were talking about it at this time.
Just starting.
I mean, people do not. Everything that's ever come along, 6.5 Creedmoor, where'd that come from? 300 Blackout just came out of nowhere. No, it did not.
Yeah, like years and years and years.
Years, and people don't realize it. So it was 97, 98. We're talking about 338 Lapua Magnum, and we wanted to shoot that. At the time, Barrett did not make like a sniper rifle. We wanted a semi-automatic rifle that shot like a bolt action. And the AI was like the king at that time. Like if you wanted like a super precise production rifle, that was the thing.
I mean, it was the only one back then. People don't realize it was the only like military bolt action, big caliber gun.
Yeah, I mean, it was the Remington 700 platform or this. And this.
Yeah, but you can't really do 338 in the Remington 700.
So that was what was out there. And I remember Dad bought one in 308 from a distributor called CFI. They had this special edition package. It was all green, came with a matching AWC silencer. Thunder Trap, really heavy silencer. But it was a green aluminum case, like OD green. You open it, the whole rifle's green, the can is green, the magazines were black. But it was amazing. This thing was like, back in the day, it was like
$11,000 back
insane.
then. Yeah.
So we were looking at that and saying, okay, well, if that's what people think a sniper rifle is now, you know, we talk about innovation and like paying attention to other people versus not. But at the time, it's like, man, this is like, okay, this is what it needs to be, but we like semi-autos. So I start drawing this thing, and the architecture, I mean, there's not anything like it. It looks kind of like an AI, like the receiver kind of has that same hexagon shape, and the stock we actually molded just right off of AI stock. Dad took cellophane and like laid it over an AI stock and then laid fiberglass over it.
Are you serious?
And that became our negative mold. And then we sprayed the inside of that with release agent and laid fiberglass inside of that, and we copied an AI stock for the rear portion of the stock to make a thumb hole that felt good.
That's awesome.
But the rifle, so it looks like a bolt action, but there's this ring around the barrel, just like a band. And at the bottom, like at the say through 5 o'clock position, if you're looking from the back of the barrel, I put a gas port in the barrel, not straight down, not straight up. It's like at the 5 o'clock, and there's a lump on that band, and it goes into a gas tube. The gas tube comes along the forearm, like under the barrel, so you can't. It looks just like a free floated bolt action barrel. The gas tube is like hidden under the forearm, and it comes back and it goes along the side of the receiver and then into the stock in the rear, into the stock. And then it makes a 90-degree turn. The gas tube makes a 90-degree turn and goes into the trigger module, the gas.
Why?
I made a trigger pack that has a hammer-fired trigger. This is a cool rifle. I've never seen anything like it. And I'm
starting to think there's a reason why.
On the back of the trigger module, there's a tappet, like an M1 carbine, a contained piston.
Yeah.
So this gas tube comes off the barrel along the side of the receiver, makes a 90-degree turn, goes into the trigger module where there is a sealed gas system.
Yeah, let's not get that hot.
You know, it doesn't matter at this rate of fire. It's a 10-round magazine. Oh, okay. The bolt carrier in this rifle extends back here, and then the bolt carrier has an L in it that hangs down behind the trigger module and creates an abutment for the tappet to hit on. So this thing looks like an AI, but it boom, 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 boom. It semi-auto cycles.
Well, what happened?
We made that, and we got the prototype built. We actually preemptively bought we had investment cast molds. It's a wild rifle. It has so many neat design exercise. I want to show it to you someday. Like I did some stuff with the charging handle, which no one had done before, to make it a non-reciprocating charging handle that then can become a forward assist also. I think it's very clever.
Well, why didn't you guys make it?
So it's 98. We were designing this, assault rifle, or this semi-automatic rifle that was compliant to the assault weapons ban. And then our lady, who was like the head of sales, Mary Scott Smith, came to us and said, she was like showing us the shotgun news. Like, hey, look, there's all these single shot bolt action rifles coming out that are like $2,000, and like people are buying them. Like people had bolt action 50 cal uppers that you could snap on an AR lower.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And there was these other guys. She's like, she's like, I'm afraid of this.
We're the 50 caliber.
We're the 50 cal people. So we shelved that thing for a second. It's like, okay, model 99. So that was model 98. That's a functioning rifle. 2 of my guys that work, one of them still works at the company. They were in assembly. They started taking that functioning rifle to long-range shooting competitions that were like kind of early PSR, like before PSR was a Precision Rifle Series, PRS, was the thing. They were going to these competitions that were around our region and taking this semi-automatic prototype. People were like, what? What is this thing? Yeah. And it's on Wikipedia. It's in a video game. You would think that people think it's in production. There's one in the world. It works and it's accurate. It's weird, man. It's a weird thing. It's a totally different way to look at it. So we had to back burner that for the Model 99.
Yep.
So what problems were you trying to solve with the 98, having the gas tube go under the barrel, along the side of the
Well,
receiver?
he had
into the
99
trigger?
problems, but 98 ain't one.
Was
That's
it
right.
just trying to do something new, or what were you?
You know, so the objective was a true precision sniper rifle that was semi-automatic, right? And if we were just looking at the archetypes at the time, you know, the AI, you know, things that is what precision rifles at that day looked like. You know, we were not.
Yeah, people can't understand it now, but it was like the only thing considered to be a production precision gun was the AI.
And we were not into the true era of the uber precise AR platform. Now, like if any company, anybody wants to make like a precision semi-auto rifle, it's like an AR.
True.
In some scale, like it's got the gas tube down the top.
And I think even with bolt guns, like there were custom bolt gun companies that could build bolt guns in, but most of them were hunting. It wasn't
correct
tactical. And there wasn't a surgeon or, you know, whoever else is considered to be great. You know, there was no Gunworks.
That's right.
Like a system. It was just Accuracy International.
So the problem we were solving was, how do we have a rifle that precise and semi-automatic? So we took what we thought were the tenets of what made that rifle precise, which we identified it as this rigid aluminum chassis that the AI had, and then it had this very rigid, stout steel receiver that was actually glued and screwed to the chassis. It's like an epoxy and screwed to that aluminum chassis.
Wow.
If you ever take one apart, it's like bedded to the aluminum.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
what people don't realize, let me
in a
interrupt
free
you
floated
there.
barrel.
Well, Accuracy International with their first chassis, which we can throw up now, which is a thumb hole stock thing, and later they did a thumb hole stock, but it's folding. But there's an aluminum chassis inside, and it's just clamshelled plastic stuff around it. And basically, that concept was taken into like the Remington Rax chassis, which wasn't the first, but really kind of spawned the chassis movement of just expanding that aluminum out into the stock and not having the overmolded stuff.
Yeah. So that's what we were trying to make a semi-automatic sniper rifle. You know, very precision, long-range precision rifle.
And you were pushing the carrier from the rear.
Pushing the carrier from the rear. It's so strange, man.
CSAS,
And that was just to have-
it became a thing. CSAS, you know, a decade later, you've got the semi-automatic sniper system or whatever for the Army. Yeah, the M110.
But pushing it from the rear, was that to have less movement up near the barrel? Is that
we were thinking free floated barrel. Like what if the barrel didn't know it was connected to a semi-automatic?
Yeah.
I like to personify my gun parts. That's how crazy we are. My gun talks to me. You know?
Well, I mean, that's the difference. I think when you have a passion for it and an understanding separate from a formal education on something like engineering, like the thought process and how would you do this and what are you trying to solve and how's that accomplished? You know, so I mean, I think there's a lot of times what lends itself to, you know, successful but unconventional, you know, remedies for these sorts of things.
We definitely design by feel. I think about what a part feels like when it's in its home. Like when that barrel is screwed in the receiver, what does it feel like being a barrel?
That's
I try to identify as a barrel.
Is it fighting with its wife? Is it happy to be home?
I mean, dude, it's kind of that way. I mean, it may be hard to explain, but it's that way. I have to think about what that trigger. You were explaining to me yesterday how you have a trigger that is perfectly balanced about its axis, where it has no, you know, and you can touch it with your finger and spin, and the trigger will stop in any place around. You know, like that's feeling that trigger. Like you explain that to me without giving me math or, you know, a scientific explanation. Like
well,
we're talking about the way that trigger feels.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an engineer, but Ethan and I were at Remington the last time they were sued for the 700 trigger, and so it brings up if you want a light, crisp trigger, but it's got to be safe.
Yeah.
What do we do? Well, okay, so Glock does it by putting in a safety apparatus in the middle of the trigger for inertia if you drop it, so the trigger's not biased by that mass and that lever. So how do we accomplish that? Well, if we're starting with a gun from the beginning, like you did with the 98, where you can do all kinds of crazy shit, we'll just create space in the lower to where we can counterbalance the trigger, and that solves that.
Yeah.
You know, just a mechanical advantage to these problems.
So these things are intuitive. You know, sometimes the best stuff doesn't always start in a formula. You know, it starts in the feels.
Yeah.
So, you know,
and something you want, you know, it's like, okay, we need this bolt action, but let's have it fire every time you pull the trigger.
So 98 was addressing that. It's like, how do we make a semi-automatic that's compliant to these stupid regulations at the time, but shoots like the world's best precision rifles? Mm-hmm. It got backburnered when we kind of saw these upcoming, kind of really homemade looking single shot 50 calibers.
Yeah.
So we, again, our company was not professionalized for a real long time. Like, it took us, so it's foolish to spend that much in development to mothball something. You should never do that. Like, when it's rolling, you finish it.
But I don't even know. You can't see, because we just did the same thing when Biden was elected, because we were working on a gas gun.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, I've got more obligations than my desire or what I think is necessary. It's like I got families to feed, and we got a company to still grow, and we have other options.
You're right. I won't beat us up for that. But sometimes directions change, and
I want to interrupt. But what you saw, and I remember, and I know these companies, and a lot of them were shut down by the ATF. Because, even though the AR, the lower, is serialized, the ATF, when people started making 50 caliber uppers for them, felt like the upper should then be serialized too, which is like completely crazy, which is total ATF. But, you guys are a 50 caliber company, and there's this new approach. And if those are $2,000 a piece for these uppers, you guys can't the Barrett was like the 82 is unattainable for a lot of people.
Right.
So just the cost of the gun. So what do you do? And I think that's where you're picking up with the 99. So what happened?
Yeah. So it's 1999 now, or it's late 98, whatever.
So Prince is celebrating.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. love the tie-in. But it's, so the 98 got backburnered, and fresh slate. What does a Barrett single shot 50 look like? Well, I said, hey, we are rolling on an iconic look already at this time. It's already by 99, it's like, hey, man, a Barrett is recognizable from 100 yards away. It's this hexagon shape. It's this basic shape of the receiver. So I start drawing an aluminum extrusion that is shaped like the sheet metal fabrication that is the 82 series in the Model 95. The hexagon shaped, about on a 2-inch diameter.
Which is pennies on the dollar to the sheet metal bent fabrication. Yeah. Extrusion. And they're so accurate and reliable. And with sheet metal fabrication, it's like everyone's handmade.
It's a nightmare. The Germans are really good at it a long time ago, but it's like it's a nightmare for most folks. So, and I got to say, the 99 for this reason is it's a significant Barrett rifle design, because it was a change of our basic design architecture.
And I dare to say the most accurate Barrett 50 cal you guys have ever made.
It is. Like, that's not even hard to say. It is. And, then later became the 416. But this rifle, I drew it as an extrusion that mimicked the aesthetics of the other 50 cal established. So, I think there's a good marketing reason to do that. We're drawing off the equity of this $7,000 rifle, whatever it was at the time. So now you can own a Barrett. It looks undoubtedly like a Barrett.
Yeah.
But it was like, $3,700. Mm-hmm.
Well, for me I'm going to arrogantly say one of your peers. Brilliant move.
Thank you.
The extrusion, making something that's affordable, less labor, better overall, like predictable quality, tolerances, everything.
And it became, and this is a little insight.
Was it that much, $3,700 at the time?
It was something. It was sub $4,000, which
really?
Was still.
I thought it was like far less than that.
Maybe it was. It was still significantly more than some of these Snap-on.
I thought it was like $2,000 or $2,500. I thought
maybe
it
was. We intentionally wanted it to be more than the other guys, but better quality. So we didn't want to be right in there with them. It needed to be premium, and part of this is a function of what was available technology at the time.
Yeah, which I talk about all the time, which I was talking to you last night while, like, as a company, we're doing a new bolt carrier design and everything, and we're talking about Stoner didn't get it wrong. Stoner just had the alloys and processes that he had in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And now here we are 70 years later. How can we take advantage of modern materials, alloys, processes, and manufacturing to make a component that's better without grinding, honing, hard chroming,
Man,
all the stuff.
It is so weird. Stoner's design here from the 50s is actually very well suited to our modern manufacturing techniques. Like, it only got better.
He was ahead of his time.
After this, he made a stamped rifle.
Yeah, the AR-18.
The AR-18 and the 63 system. So,
Yeah,
you
and
know,
the 18, like we think about, I've got one here, and it's like the receivers are stamped, but the hammer is stamped, the selector is stamped,
Yeah.
the disconnector is stamped,
and he did
every
that,
part is stamped.
He did that for manufacturability in places of the world where some of these techniques weren't even available in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
but they did understand
because he did
stamping.
forging, and he understood that from aircraft stuff. But yeah, Stoner, I think he and Browning, like Elon Musk, alien.
Yeah. Yeah. So in 99, you know, now fast forward from 82 to 99, like people, CNC machines are becoming more approachable to people.
Yeah.
Like now people in their garage businesses actually have some form of a CNC at some level.
Yeah, you can get a Haas machine for under 10 grand.
Well, the education is a lot more available too. A lot more schools are now doing the automated machining instead of the old school.
I think Model 99, it did not take me long. I might have done the Model 99 on Pro Engineer, but I might have already ditched Pro Engineer for SolidWorks. Game changer.
Yeah.
The 3D parametric modeling kernel, like that we all use. Like so we started 3D modeling, and we were in Pro E as well, but SolidWorks was an absolute game changer.
So for those people who don't understand, like all the 3D drafting from what's it called?
Pro E or AutoCAD.
AutoCAD. Yeah. It's all 2D.
You're drawing lines on a computer in 2-dimensional.
Yeah, and so with SolidWorks, like what we use, it's all 3D, so you can rotate it, you can tolerance the whole part, you can see how it interfaces with other components that you've already drawn in 3D. So it's 10x what you can do in AutoCAD.
Not to mention the simulations and the material selections in it. You can actually get a good guess on the weight.
Yeah.
It's really important.
And the tool has got so much flex now that even professional users may not know about. You have to like really keep up with every revision. So I think Model 99 might have been the first Pro Engineer, SolidWorks Barrett product. It was sometime in that transition zone. But so we started drawing on this thing, and the Model 99 ushered in the aluminum extruded monolithic receiver. This is really weird. So, you know, the Model 99 is a bolt action bullpup configuration of a single shot, no magazine. The thing that is serialized is the thing that we push the barrel into. We press the barrel in from the rear, and then has this retaining nut in the front, like the 90, which later became the 98B.
So separate, different than the AR-15.
The serial number is on that part that the barrel is touching.
So the upper.
So imagine on your AR-15, if the lower, like, it's so weird that way the ATF calls things. You know, if I had to tell you what the receiver, if you asked me what the receiver was on an AR-15, I would say it's the barrel extension. The barrel extension is the receiver. If we're going off traditional Mauser bolt actions, because the thing that locks,
because it would be the receiver.
It's what receives the load.
Remington 700 or Mauser or Mosin-Nagant or whatever. The barrel extension is the receiver.
The barrel extension should be the
what the bolt
part.
locks into.
Yeah, it's what the bolt locks into. The lower receiver is just like the thing that you hold.
Yeah,
like it's
well, I mean, it's just like you said, on the 99 or an AR or the Barrett 82, it's like the receiver, make it out of whatever the hell you want. Which brings me to another point, but because you're locking the bolt into the barrel extension, which is where all the pressure is. So like an AR being aluminum, make it out of balsa wood. It's not taking any load. It's the barrel extension. So you learn from this, and it's a single shot. And so, correct me if I'm wrong. The 107 was the 82. It's adopted by the military, becomes the 107, and you guys do improvements along the way. But it's all stamped sheet metal. But from lessons learned from the 99, I assume the 107, so the Barrett semi-auto now has an aluminum upper.
Correct. Yeah, we're like, hey, we should use this instead of making this fabricated sheet metal. So we started, you know, and in my tenure as like designer, like I redid a lot of the M107 and M107A1 parts, you know, just kind of going through and optimizing along the way and like adding little blocks of enhancements. Like, so the butt plate casting. It's like, hey, it's time for a new mold. Like, I'm going to optimize that thing. We're getting all the mass out.
If you have to do all the tooling all over again, why not make it the best?
So many things have happened, as you know, mature on a rifle along the way. But the 99 became the new design language. It's like, this is how we're going to do it now. We're not going to do it the old way. So the Model 99 had that serialized upper, if you will, and then it had this trigger group that had the grip and the trigger components that slid onto and connected with push pins onto that upper. So that is why, what many years later, like 338, interest from that original 98 kind of fell off for a while, and then it came back, and then we started drawing 98B. And 98B,
that's why it's the 98B, because it's a bolt gun.
Yeah, it's like
that's one of my questions I had. I didn't know the answer.
We were going to revive the 98 program. It's like, let's bring the 98 program back. There's going to be an A and a B, an automatic and a bolt gun, and they're going to look
Makes
similar.
Sense, A-B.
We thought they'll look similar, but like they'll just be, one's automatic, one's bolt action. Well, now it's like, no, they're not going to look similar. I'm not going to make a bolt action that looks like that other one because it would just look like an AI. Like, we don't make rifles that way anymore. The 99 is the new architecture. Like, we have this aluminum chassis that is holding a barrel, and then the bolt actuates behind that. So that's why I say the 99 is so important. And if you look at a 99 next to a 98B,
so 98B is your new, became the Mark 22. So it's adopted by
MRAD,
SOCOM.
became Mark 22. The 98B is a very important rifle.
338 is what it started as. Bolt
Strictly
gun.
338.
So you did a tube gun.
So light and
slender. The gun different. So at the time I was working on, I guess later, but at the time the 98B became a contender for military programs. Remington purchased my company, and we were working on the MSR rifle, which is a titanium receiver. It's a 700, but different because you lock into the barrel extension like the Barrett or an AR, which is different than 700s. But traditional chassis, where you did something to me that's even a step further. It's a tube gun, so you have aluminum extrusion. You got a lower, but the bolt rides in a tube. Cool gun, so lighter weight, more compact.
I am going to brag on us for a second, and you can contest me about this historically if we need to. But I remember when I got the 98B designed up, and we made the first ones, and I'm holding this thing at the time. And I can't remember what year this exactly was, but at the time, precision long-range rifles that were available to anyone were still an action, like a round action similar to a Mauser with a bolt that turns in it and a barrel screwed into it, and then they were then bedded into heavier stocks.
Yeah.
But they still basically looked like sporting rifles with thick barrels and maybe a stock that had a little more grip on it, like a Macmillan A5. That's what all precision rifles look like at the time that 98B came out. All of them.
Agreed.
I remember holding this thing and showing this to Dad, and I said to Dad, I was like, Dad, this is what all precision rifles are going to be like from here on. Because like once I had one in my hand, I was like, this is so damn good. For the reasons we've talked about, like AI is a very accurate rifle, but the thing is like carrying a brick. It's like carrying a bench rest rifle into combat.
Yep.
The Q rifle and the 98B rifle,
it's different.
They capitalize on the ergonomics that we kind of optimized here.
Love, but you think about, okay, who's in charge of these things? Kevin Brittingham, Chris Barrett, and what we grew up on, ARs.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm probably the oldest guy where that's what I grew up on.
Yeah.
But I was the only guy at the range would there be 50 people that had an AR-15. And yeah, so I agree.
With enough time, a lot of people come to the same conclusions. It's not that any one of us is particularly brilliant. Like
no.
Somebody on the other side of the world can come to some of the same conclusions about anything you want to talk about. This rifle got a lot of the things in the right place. Like the safety where it is better than a safety up on the tang. I mean, the pistol grip arrangement is better for shooting from weird field positions. You're going to be more accurate, more consistent with your trigger finger placement with this than you are with a traditional stock.
Yeah.
This thing got a lot of the stuff right.
Yeah, I mean, Stoner was probably 50 years ahead of his time.
We were, if not the first, super early in adapting and saying, hey, those things aren't broke. why does a traditional rifle look like my deer rifle with a heavy barrel and a thick stock?
That's right.
Let's make it look like this.
You know, when we were doing the fix, some of the consideration from a couple of the guys was we didn't want to look too forward, and we thought people would be turned off. They couldn't have a traditional stock on it.
Yeah.
But I didn't care. You know, to me, it's like I stopped using my, you know, I traditionally have shot a lot. And I stopped using my 700 safety. Number one, because I always run my triggers so light they're not safe anyway. But I can't ever remember like what was safe and what was fire on the 700 because I shoot those guns a fair amount, but I shot the ARs like every day.
Yeah.
So muscle memory. And I'm like, I don't know. So I just put the bolt in the first position and the gun's safe. I don't ever even engage the safety. And when I want to shoot, I close it and I shoot. But when we did the fix in March of 2016, when I started Q, we're all in the room and I'm writing on the whiteboard what our first project is, and it's 1 hour. We're all agreeing on it. Like in the top 3, I don't know what all the things were, but the fix had to have AR ergonomics.
Yes,
that was a thing.
It is absolutely a thing, and so that's why I say, you know, the 98B was very important to our company, and the 99 was very important to our company, and I don't think the 99 doesn't get that respect because I don't think we see it in the same class, but I got to say it's what set the tone.
I mean, if you say it's a single shot, like who gives a shit to some degree?
Right.
But then, okay, it caused the 98B, and now
to be the way it is.
Now it's SOCOM sniper rifle. Like, and then maybe even more importantly, the 107 to be able to improve that gun by doing an extrusion on the top and changing that receiver, you know, because I'm sure you get better consistency,
yes,
better tolerances, you probably reduce weight, like all these things that are important for that weapon system.
It really expanded our kind of design library of like how we're going to do things. And there are so many things that Barrett has done that the public's never seen. And not that they were ever successful in any way, but not because they weren't great. They haven't been. Like, we have a huge tinker shop. Our advanced research group is just like full of stuff that could be companies. You know,
I mean,
there's all these there's all these weird things on racks. You know,
I mean, just like you and your guys and your dad. I mean, I think at our company, you know, we had 11 employees. We had like 6 engineers, and we have no shortage of, I think, probably really great ideas. But you know, you got to get it to market.
Yeah,
and you know, we're better at that than we are manufacturing. So a focus for us, and that doesn't mean quality, that just means volume. So a focus for us over the next couple of years is really growing, you know, organically and correctly the manufacturing to better support our idea shop.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like anybody can make an AR-15. Who cares? Barrett, us, Savage, you know, Joe Blow in his garage. You can make a decent AR. Big deal. But to innovate and do things, like you got to have the manufacturing. So that's a focus.
Someone's got to pay for it, yeah. And you know, so I don't know. It's been such a fun journey. But the 98B, you were asking me about PSR program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So okay. So those don't know, the 98B was a rifle that you developed, and then the programs start popping up for 338 rifles. And the very first one, I know the Remington MSR rifle one, but a very expensive $20,000 gun, but for a very elite group, but it kind of sets the tone. We're going to go to 338 bolt guns that have caliber interchangeability, so you can convert them from 338 to 300 Win Mag to 308 or whatever the calibers are. And what I love about working with those groups, it all trickles down. So it goes from these groups to SOCOM, Big Army, you know, and Big Army being everyone that's not special operations, essentially. So SOCOM, so you win a contract. So they did the PSR. I think that was canceled or something happened. They start the ASR, and I don't really know.
I think it's worth talking about the PSR for a second without getting, you know, without.
So it was the first SOCOM sniper rifle, precision
sniper rifle.
Yeah,
and you know, Barrett, because it caused the MRAD to become a product. So at the time, we were the 250, the 350 cals, 82, 95, 99, and then this 98B.
Yep.
which was a 338 only at the time, but it was already like pretty modular. Like it already had the
It's very different.
5-second change out trigger group, like the bolt head, like we'd already designed the bolt head to be able to change off the barrel, but didn't have other calibers yet off the bolt body. So we looked at these requirements. This is the one time that a requirement document drove a Barrett product that became a successful thing.
Really?
Like every other time, like we've been the opinion leader, but we looked at PSR and, the team was looking at it there. It's like, okay, it has to have this barrel that changes, or it had to be caliber convertible. It had to have this. It had to have this folding stock. There were requirements. There was a requirements document. I think it was one of the better requirements documents.
Yeah, because I remember your first one didn't have a folding stock, and I remember when you showed it to me, I was like, you're going to have a folding stock, but the way the gun was designed, you can't really fold a ton of it. But, yeah, I remember that. Mine does not have a folding stock. Yeah.
From that document, that's where the MRAD was born.
So you do this incredible rifle. I love lots of elements, and then along comes the military wanting some stuff. Yeah. So what all goes on? I want to hear it because I want to know, because you guys were not the favorite originally. And, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Here we are, ASR. Mm-hmm. Barrett's got a contract, Mark 22, and you're taking me on vacation.
Yeah, we do. We do need to go on vacation.
I know we should. So what happened?
The precision sniper rifle contract came along, the program, and it had a very strenuous and I thought well written requirements document.
And that's from SOCOM.
Yes.
Was that out of Crane? Probably.
It was coming from MacDill Air Force Base. I think was where it was being run. Okay. But all the testing happens at Crane.
Yeah.
And it was a very well written document. And Barrett took the 98B, our team, and we made it into the MRAD by hitting all the requirements that it needed.
Okay, well, let's stop there because I have a 98B.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Why is it not out there? We should have that.
Oh, I know. I feel like a douche. It's at the shop.
Okay.
And then my M82 is in Georgia at my place, so we don't have your stuff out, and I apologize. We do own some things. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between the 98B and what became the MRAD? What the fuck does MRAD stand for? We know what 98B stands for. And what are the differences?
Yeah, so MRAD is I don't know what you call that one.
Dorky acronym, yeah.
Yeah, but it is, but I think it's kind of clever because MRAD, is the standard unit of measure that everybody that shoots long range now uses.
MOA.
A milliradian.
Mil, yeah.
But, we're like, hey, it's multi-role adaptive design. Like us military guys, we love acronyms. I'm not in the military, but, we interface with these guys. Everybody loves an acronym.
Yeah, I hate them. That's why I give everything names like Honey Badger. I can't remember.
Well, MRAD it's worked out pretty well for us.
RAD's cool.
Yeah, RAD is cool. And it's
MRAD, whatever.
So it's a multi-role adaptive design. We actually think it actually is that, too. It's one of the rare cases where I don't think we had to stretch it too far to be an accurate descriptor of the rifle because it does
multi-role. I mean, I get it because I assume – from the 98B, you went to the MRAD. Now you have conversions from 338, 300 Win Mag. I don't know what else, but 7.62 NATO.
It's in probably 10 different calibers now. I mean, it's just
no shit.
Yeah, I mean, we have got there's 260 Remington barrels out there. There's 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, 300 Win Mag, 300 Norma Mag, 338. Norma
Mag. You
mag.
can do Norma Mag.
The ASRs are Norma Mag
because it's a Lapua Mag. What am I thinking?
There's 300 PRC.
Yeah.
Those
are all great. Those 4 cartridges. Oh my God, I love 300 Norma. My favorite.
Well, actually. That's apparently so did SOCOM because that's what.
Is that what they're doing now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite.
So that PSR contract drove the rifle to need a folding stock and the rapid caliber change. And
I told you about that folding stock.
You told me, man. You told me. You're the harbinger. But we hit all the boxes. Like we checked all the boxes on, the coding, all the performance requirements, and we really poured ourselves into that program, and that was 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
PSR.
Yeah, I remember talking to you through that. Well, what happened with PSR? So PSR was a program, and it went away or died, and then ASR, they just rename it, and it comes back. What happened?
It didn't exactly go away, and without.
Yep. So what happened?
It didn't really go away. It's Barrett. We submitted rifles. It was one of the most heartbreaking things for our company ever because the team worked so hard. We had, I personally was in the room loading 12 or 1,300 rounds of ammunition. We loaded the ammunition for the program. We had to submit ammo with it. and we couldn't get the spec ammo we wanted with the variances we wanted. The
SDs, the standard deviation and muzzle velocity.
I have like electric line balancers in the R&D shop.
All right. Well, so I'm not feeling bad for you. So
Well, the rifles all got to Crane on time, and it was reported back to us that our technical submission, like the paperwork, did not arrive through their servers on time. It got there 30 minutes late. So our rifles did not get evaluated. People, I remember that day walking into the conference room, people cried. We did everything we can. We protested. People cried.
Oh, I remember this. I remember you telling me about this.
It was given to Remington.
Yep, I remember that.
Rifles never were fielded or delivered.
My own similar story to always circle this back to me being selfish is at Advanced Armament. So during the SOCOM silencer evaluation and adoption, they awarded 4 different categories. We won 3. We didn't win the 5.56, which Surefire won, and they promoted as the Surefire SOCOM can, and it's fucking horrible, honestly. But they won. But the reason we didn't win, we won in every category except the Mark 18, and it was the Mod O or Mod 1, whatever. They had a longer handguard. We didn't have that one, and when you put our flash hider on, our silencer would not go on because it hit the handguard. So the 1,200 guns or whatever in the inventory, we were disqualified. Surefire won by default. And we would have won, would have been a clean sweep, like, LeBron James or Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, whatever. Clean sweep, 3-peat. We'd have won it all, and we didn't. We fucked up. So
it's
technicality.
It's not always all about the product. I think there are people that can make a good enough product, but dealing with customers like this, professional end users, it does have a lot to do with. I mean, man, a lot of the heroes at our company manage the programs. It's like doing what you say you're going to do, showing up. It's our job.
Checking all the boxes.
It's our job to design awesome products, but it's like that's not enough.
No, that's half of it when it comes to this stuff. And when people start talking about like whatever, the $800 toilet seat or $600 hammer, that's some of this stuff in my opinion, because it's like we can design the product, but when you deal with government, big government, definitely it's the other part, the interface with them is half of the fucking program, which is ridiculous, but it is what it is. So anyway, you guys, they don't evaluate your product because you're 30 minutes late getting the paperwork in. So Remington wins.
Yeah.
Which that's who won the classified program. So they win that. It trickles down to SOCOM. And why didn't that project move ahead?
I'm not going to speculate, and I don't want to say.
Oh, you don't know. Okay.
But I don't think the rifles could be delivered and meet the performance requirement.
Well, my experience with Remington, I'm not going to disagree with you.
So, without, because I don't know who all was around that program and who's still hanging around. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but we got robbed, and I think the end users got robbed because for this last almost decade, they could have been working. That MRAD that we submitted for PSR is not vastly different from what just won the most rigorous long-range precision rifle. It's not that different.
Isn't that a good feeling? You win
8 years, yeah. So now fast forwarding, the program comes back as ASR Advanced Sniper Rifle.
Okay, so I want to slow down. So they award that PSR. What happens?
Remington won it, and Barrett went on about our business now with a new rifle called MRAD.
Yeah.
That we actually took over the world in the last 8 years.
Well, what happened? PSR just died. What happened?
I don't really know, but those things do happen.
Okay, so
funding goes away.
That's true. Where's the money coming from? It's always a thing to watch.
Or like you're saying earlier, change of hands because somebody's not in that position anymore.
Right, and priorities change too. It's like, hey, we need this now. Since then, combat the handgun, modular handgun happened. Other things, other little programs are coming on.
Well, I didn't realize that was quite the time difference. So PSR to ASR, which you win, what's the time difference?
I think it's 7 or 8 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, dude.
I thought it was like 2 years.
You're getting old.
Well,
we're getting so old.
Once I was,
I'll throw me in there too, but you're so much older than me.
I am
terrible.
But
the microphones.
Once I left Remington, though, I just didn't pay attention that much anymore. Right. So at my age, you're right. 7 years isn't that long.
Silver lining for us though, we got done with that. We felt beat. We felt like we hit the mat, but it's like, hey, on the bright side, we have this awesome product now that we did in record speed, and it's been through all this testing because you can damn sure be, you can be sure that we did not send anything that we didn't already test. Like, it went through all of the environmentals and everything. We have an awesome product. So we went on now, Norway, Australia.
So you're winning these in the meantime?
Everywhere. Like everywhere. Like, we're displacing
the
old guys.
That is a good feeling. Like when you get sucker punch and then you can, turn around and start whipping some ass. Good feeling. So we ASR happens. Well, how long was ASR?
It took years also. It took years. And so people, friends of mine that are kind of on the outside of the industry, when this started hitting the news, like when it started getting out there when it started getting out there, and people started forwarding me articles from wherever I get it, and it made mainstream news because, it was of interest, that the Army, that SOCOM adopts this new thing, gives it a mark number. So people start, forwarding me that, man, congratulations. Are you going out tonight to celebrate? Or like it just happened? Like I just won the lottery.
So it's like you find out through your friends.
No, I think I already knew about it, but I think from them on the outside looking in, to a lot of folks, they perceive it as you just won a lottery ticket. Like, so this just happened. I'm like, no, it didn't. Like, this was 8 years. And they're like, well, are you shocked? Are you surprised? Are you are you going to party tonight? Are you going to pop bottles open? It's like, no, man, this is just like, are you ecstatic about it? I'm happy. I'm deeply happy. Yeah. But it's like, we've been working for it for 8 years.
Yeah, getting the little gold star after the fact.
Like, nobody high fives you when you pay your mortgage off after 20 years. It's like, no, that's what I've been trying to do for 20 years.
It's
like,
true.
It wasn't a shocker, so.
Man, I will say.
We are deeply happy about it. It's a huge.
Congratulations. So for those people who don't understand, like if it's a M107, the M normally means that the Army adopts it.
Yes.
If it's the Navy, which is generally SOCOM,
Marine Corps.
Isn't the Navy, it's a Mark, so MK. So the Mark 11, the Knight's rifle, their semi-automatic sniper rifle, is a Navy gun, SOCOM gun. The M110, the Army version, M110. Yeah. So yours is the Mark 22. Man, congratulations. I mean, from my standpoint, like I don't know, to flex a little, I don't know that you or I either one work for money anymore.
Right. I feel like we've had 2 hit records, and it's like
M107, Mark 22, like
yeah. If you started a company and in 30 years you designed a rifle that got adopted and given a type classification by the U.S. military, you have done a thing.
Yeah, I mean you can't, and that separates you guys from Golden Earring, one hit wonder. You got 2.
That's right.
Radar Love,
man. And it's like. So my dad was like one of the only living like individual firearm designers to have a gun adopted, and now like my rifle became that, and he is so proud, and we're so proud. It's just,
I mean, he should be, because like you're right, Knight's Armament, they've got several as well, but it's a stoner design,
right?
It's an AR,
and I'm not trying to knock any shine off of what they did, because I know how much work goes into
all those
things. You
guys are. Like it or not, cousins. It's like SEAL Team 6, Delta Force. I mean, it's cousins. I mean, it's the same shit. Like Reed took his route. Stoner came to work there. They did shit. You guys took your own approach, and it's to be honored. It's like Starbucks. I would have never invested in Starbucks. What a stupid idea.
Yeah.
So wrong.
Right.
The M82 would not have invested. I'm dumb. MRAD. That's the thing. It's a totally separate thing. It's like the Fix and the Honey Badger. And you guys are successful in both. And there's something to be honored with that. For me, Knights has done all kinds of cool shit, but theirs are both stoner guns. They are. They're not their designs.
Well, I am deeply honored. And it's like, I think it's hard.
As you should be.
I think it's hard to take in, but I really do feel like we've knocked 2 out of the park there, and we're not done. Like it's the reputation now that comes with having Mark 22. The rest of the world still largely looks to the United States on not just weapons, but kind of like everything. And so now like everybody else, like, well, what U.S. SOCOM is shooting that? Well, that we need to look at that. So it automatically becomes the default.
I mean, those of us in the know that work with those groups, we know. Like if we go to those meetings, like all the NATO countries that actually kill terrorists, that actively get offensive when there's Al-Qaeda or ISIS or anything involved, the countries that go and kill those people, that take action, when we go to those meetings, you and I know they're there.
Yeah.
Whether it's Sweden, it's Australia, you name the country, Canada, they're all in there.
Yeah.
But the U.S. is always the leader.
That's right.
Always the leader.
And we spend a lot on these programs.
Yeah, so why wouldn't they copy us?
Right.
Like, I would do it too. Like, if I had our classified units to look to who are spending, they have no financial limits on small arms. Realistically, they don't. Because when we say that, it's really true, because like small arms in the scope of these organizations are no money. Like mobility. You want to build a new jet, a new fighter, a new, armored personnel carrier, like ship, boats, like these things are expensive. Guns are like nothing. Like your MRAD for SOCOM with all the stuff might be $20,000. That's a ton of money for me or you or anybody. But the government, $20,000,
Right.
What's that? Like a spare tire for an APV? It's nothing.
It's like a line item way down on
It's not even considered. So, so we are, and we do the development, and we do the work. And if I were Canada or Australia or New Zealand or, Denmark or Norway,
I'm going to tell you,
I do the same stuff.
You just ended on my people. It's ironically like the people that really drove MRAD pre Mark 22, Norway.
Norway's awesome.
So it's weird. Like Sweden was on the 82, but Norway's on the
Sweden is great.
So, all of our customers are hard on us, and every one of them helped us build the rifle.
It's so awesome.
Israel, Norway. It's,
but
going through all
you need
their
to take
trials.
the credit. It's cool for them. That's their job. But the difference is having leadership at the company driving the product that knows the stuff to listen to and the stuff to ignore. To me, because I've heard it all.
Yeah.
And some of this stuff, you're like, oh my God, that's brilliant. I would not have thought of that. Most of the stuff, you're like, that's not going to make sense for us. So you got to have somebody to make that decision.
I don't say that in the sense that they like designed the rifles, but they broke them. They helped us break them.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't work. Like, okay, let's address it.
You know
we
what?
still have to be the opinion leader. You have to have the guts. You got to have the balls to say, this is, show me your requirement, what you're trying to do. Let me hand you the tool.
Yeah.
Don't define the tool for us. Let us get the tool for you.
Because, those organizations are made up of very alpha males, which, that's an overused term.
If you put the three of us in a room and said, we're going to pick a rifle, we're going to take hunting in Africa, we would fight about it for 3 days. Imagine like 1,000 stakeholding professional end users trying to decide on one rifle.
Or even 10.
10.
The 10 best in the world, they don't agree.
But
they will fight to the death.
They're
over
representing their guys.
Yeah.
Like, so each one, and when you talk about big army,
big army. The problem with big army, it's way more vast, but you also have guys that don't have the experience. Mm-hmm. Like, it's cool. Like, the Army's awesome. They've done lots of great stuff for us. But when we start talking about the special operations groups of the Army, when we talk about the people that we trust to go in and actually kill terrorists and really risk their lives every day, multiple times a day, taking offensive actions in combat. Like, you got to listen to them, but some of them are still squirrely as shit. Like, just their bias. Like, they really love this little particular thing. And we can do that, but you can't make it the focus of the gun. So I think, with like your position or mine, the idea is to understand this, and we make the decision what's important. For the company or for these guys. It might work for this guy, but if we're thinking about SOCOM, so now, we're 1,000 times bigger with SOCOM. Then you go to the big Army, you're 1,000 times bigger than that. How do you make a decision as a company that still has commercial viability? You still got to feed people. You got to make money. You got to build a product that isn't specific to this one organization. Because, you're not charging $1 million a gun. It's a reasonable price. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've enjoyed it. I've liked it. I've learned. And I think the idea of who to listen to and what's important are, for me, have been the real valuable lessons in dealing with those organizations. But anyway, I applaud you for the Mark 22. I'm so excited for you. What all is the difference between the 98B and the Mark 22?
The Mark 22, you know, it met the specific requirements of that program, which were the calibers were defined. You know,
So multi-caliber.
yeah, and the 3 calibers are 7.60 by 51, and then 300 Norma mag, which appears to be that's going to be the primary
You
cartridge.
ever killed anything with it?
I haven't, no.
So good. It's
bet.
a freaking laser beam too. Oh my God. To 1,000 yards, it's just...
Yeah, I've shot it at long range out in South Dakota, and it's amazing. And then 338 Norma mag for the payload. For the
Oh,
AP
so
payload.
Lapua mag's totally out.
There's
I
no
didn't even know that.
Lapua. There's no Lapua. Now, a big confusing thing that happened is the Navy also bought some rifles and MRADs before Mark 22 was even officially fielded, and they're in 300 PRC.
Oh, they are?
So
I like that cartridge a lot too.
News of that got out there, and people are like, "Is that Mark 22?" It's like, no, it's not. It caused a lot of confusion.
I mean,
that's not.
we both know that organization, those guys are cowboys.
Yeah,
They're great.
I think they're going to end up slinging these Norma mags too, though.
Oh, they will?
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
PRC is great for its own reasons, but it's I don't know. It's kind of easier, I guess, to all be shooting the same stuff.
I think so. But yeah, I love 300 PRC. I like 6.5 PRC. And I like Hornady loading ammo. So I think they do all the 300
Gosh, man,
PRC.
Hornady, what
a great company.
What
I
a
love
great
them.
company. And like what they have done for a commitment to long range precision cartridges and shooting, and the ability to be able to like forget about your reloading equipment and just like send me a case of 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'm done with this.
It's
amazing.
that's when I stopped reloading ammo.
Me too.
Is when 6.5 came out, and
I used to load 708. Like I was like all into that, and I mean
that's a redneck cartridge.
Yeah, boy. But it's like,
well, for me, I was loading 260.
yeah,
And that's what I was into. But then when Hornady started doing 6.5, because, I mean, realistically, there are people who can shoot far better than me. But a 5-shot group, if I'm half inch, like that's pretty much where I
yeah.
rest.
But I think that if we're being real, the buying a case of Hornady with the 140 BTHP or whatever bullet they're putting in, the AMAX bullet, I mean, it's 5-shot, 1 MOA ammo in a lot of rifles, and that's good. I mean, people talk about quarter, half MOA, but it's
that's
like, come
crazy.
on, dude.
Any production gun in 308, let's say, if you got a gun, any configuration that is under 1 MOA, don't fuck with it.
Right.
It's legit. And people talking all that shit about quarter MOA, you got to load your own ammo, do all these things. I ain't got time for that. But 6.5, the 140 ELDs.
ELD, yeah.
Half inch all day long. And I know from my own experience of hand loading 260, that's pretty much with my patience level where I max out.
Yeah.
So if I got something where I can shoot 5-shot, not 3-shot, because that's bullshit, 5-shot groups of half MOA, I'm golden. Like, I'm not loading ammo. And it's honestly where I stopped loading ammo. And Hornady, God bless them, they generally sponsor me my hunting, and they provide me with ammo. And it shoots all of it half MOA.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I would never load ammo again.
No.
And it's effective. Like, it's inside 300, just about as effective as 308. And beyond that, it's better. And low recoil. Why would I shoot anything else?
Agreed.
All right. So when did this Mark 22 happen? When were you awarded?
I mean, it was in the year 2020.
Oh, it was. So it just happened.
It was, yes.
I thought it was like 2018.
No.
I'm a little bit out of the loop.
It depends on what you call official, but I didn't want to say anything till we were fully pregnant, like till it was done, till we've delivered rifles now. People drop information too soon, I
don't know. I'm very guilty of that. And
So
whatever.
guilty.
Whatever. You got to build the hype. I'm a hype machine.
Those rifles
I'm
are...
a little, yeah. Okay. What?
Those rifles are in inventory now.
Well, I need one of those. I'm gonna work a trade with you.
All right.
I want one to go with my other ones. Man, well, as a friend, I'm incredibly proud of you.
Thank you.
As a peer in the industry, and I'm going to promote myself to that. Like, what a fucking honor, man. I'm so happy for you guys, and you, your dad, your family, the employees of Barrett. What a badass thing. So, I mean, that's awesome. Like, Barrett, a great American company, and you guys come up with your own design, and, you deliver. That's great. And you know, it benefits everyone.
Thank you.
Man, I'm happy for you. And I hope your grandkids live to, you know, have airplanes as a result. So, man, that's cool. So cool. I don't know where you go from here. I guess you got to do the third thing.
We're getting hyper focused now.
Yeah.
You know, you and I were talking about this the other day, and it's we're getting hyper focused on our professional end users and doing what we do. Like we're successful at doing what we're doing now. We're getting really focused as a company on long range, being the leaders, kind of in long range precision.
Isn't it funny? You know, like a young company, 40 years in, we're comfortable with who we are now. It's the fucking way it goes. I mean, it's really the way in personal life too. Like I realized at, I don't know, 42 or 45, this is who I am. Like, I don't give a shit about judgment. I don't care about fitting in. I don't care about having a job with somebody else. Yeah. Like, I'm okay with who I am. And I think Barrett as a company, you're like in the, you know, we're like cousins, you know, with my personal life. It's like, yeah, you guys are who you are. You figured it out. And you no apologies and you do your own thing. Well, man, I'm looking forward to the follow-up.
You know, and did somebody ask us about a Fieldcraft?
Yeah, so somebody.
Okay, yeah, okay. God damn it, you guys jumping ahead. I've got a list. I took notes. I took the time. I didn't just go to Instagram. I devoted a day to this.
Oh, I did it in half the time. So.
Oh, you're one question, fucking superstar over there. All right, so Mike, somebody asked you about Fieldcraft. So, okay, give me 30 seconds. All right, so it is. So as Chris Barrett becomes in charge of Barrett, and I saw something, I don't know, 5 or 10 years ago, as Barrett diversifies, similar to a Beretta, we'll say, in its infancy. You started looking at Italian shotguns. You started looking at bolt actions, expanding the line beyond military, commercial market, different things.
Yeah. And
I love the story you pitched to me, but you also have a great voice and you're a great storyteller. So partnering with an Italian shotgun company to do over and unders, what was the name of that?
It was Barrett Sovereign. It was the Sovereign line.
Sovereign. Okay. Yeah. And then Fieldcraft, the bolt action rifles.
Yeah.
That you guys were doing based on a 700 footprint, I believe, but you know, is the size of the cartridge. So there's 3 or 4 different sizes of the receivers. So super compact, lightweight guns for, you know, a discriminating hunter, we'll call it. And the company was called Fieldcraft. You're very good at all these things. Yeah. So what the fuck? Like Adam said.
It's this isn't the first time this has happened to companies. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple.
Oh God, come on.
No, man, seriously. I mean, it gives I have to justify why we do what we do. Why things have been done, you know. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple, they had all these products and the company wasn't doing well, and he pared it down to like 2 laptops and 2 desktop computers, and then the company became what it is now.
Chocolate and vanilla.
You know, it's just like we got to get back to what we're doing, and that's
it's called roots, Oprah.
Yeah, it's roots. Got back to them roots. So the shotgun thing was, I mean, it's embarrassing to me now, but
why is it embarrassing? I think it's cool. Like, why would anyone be embarrassed?
Let's edit that. But that's terrible. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah. Well, wait. Number one, as your friend, fuck you. If you're embarrassed for swinging the bat, and hitting a foul ball that could have been a home run, like, who are you listening to? Have I mocked you? You know what? A bunch of anonymous little fucking douches on the internet say something about it. Like, fuck those guys. Like, people who never swing the bat are your biggest critics.
True.
Don't give a shit. And Fieldcraft. Awesome. I just went on like the black market, the crack dealer market, to buy a Fieldcraft. One of my best friends, it was his company. Can't even get me one. I have to go buy one from some douche.
None.
Somebody asked me the question because they want one.
So the Fieldcraft I'm actually super proud of, and I am the shotguns too. They were great. It was, but you know, people even asked me at the time like, "Isn't this out of your lane a little bit?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, maybe." But
Isn't everything out of your lane until you do it? Like, shut up.
I was in the mode of trying to diversify the company in a little bit. You know, we do blow in political winds. You said that you have made decisions on what's in your product development pipeline based on political wins.
100%.
And
100%.
You know, I saw this whole segment of the shooting market that's still out there. It's a different set of people. There are a lot of shotgunners. Like, there are shotgunners that don't own other guns.
Yeah.
you know, and then guys like me and you don't use a shotgun very often like that, a sporting shotgun. So it's a whole different crowd with a different taste and everything. And I wanted to explore that, and we did. And I think, you know, if I ever had to do that again, I would know a better way to make that work. They're beautiful. They are beautiful guns. And like,
Oh, you built some.
oh, the Italian guns. Yeah, they're out there.
Oh, I want one of those.
That's
Of
a
course,
weird
you can't
thing to
help
have
me
to.
with that either.
Well, they're probably, you know, that's probably the thing that needs to be scoured for Gunbroker now. Like it's they're weird. Like
Barrett's
imagine owning
sovereign.
a Barrett over under shotgun that's beautiful, made by Fausti in Italy.
Yeah, you showed me some early on.
They're
Nice.
great guns. But now Fieldcraft, different thing.
So that was, you partnered with a shotgun company in Italy.
Right.
You built some over-under shotguns. And I remember you showing me they were beautiful. And so then you did a bolt action.
And I had a whole lifestyle brand with that too. Like there's soft goods. Like
Doesn't
awesome.
You're so fancy.
I know
Doesn't surprise
it had
me.
to be. Yeah,
So
nice.
then Fieldcraft.
yeah.
So like fancy, really well made 700 base guns that were different
Ish.
sizes.
You know, even the diameter of the receiver was smaller, so it
Yeah.
didn't use a 700.
Oh, they're light. Like that 243 I got with the 18-inch barrel, maybe a 6 pounds, maybe.
Here's the true inside story on that, and I don't know if everybody realizes it, but that rifle has that basic size of that rifle has such a story. This guy named Melvin Forbes, a custom gunsmith,
Yeah,
started
in
this-
Maine. No? Where was he?
West Virginia.
Oh,
Yeah, that's part of the story though. He had this rifle, then he called his company Ultralight Arms, and that rifle design it was he really optimized the thing and scaled it down, and it had this carbon fiber stock, full length bedded, and he made these super light purist hunting rifles. At some point along the way, Colt picked up that design from him and made the
I
Colt,
remember the Colt bolt
the Colt
guns.
light
I
rifle,
forgot
the
about
CLRs. Those were Melvin Forbes derived rifles, but they put them in a cheaper polymer stock, which is kind of necessary to make a viable.
that. Well, Colt. yeah.
I mean, the stock on this thing, hand laid carbon fiber, was so expensive. So Colt did that, and then at some point discontinued it.
God, I remember those like 20 years ago.
And I don't know if and they were in CDN for like $3.99 for a while. You know,
should have bought them.
Oh, I know. And it's like you could send those back to Melvin Forbes, and he would bet it to the true carbon fiber stock and all this. And they were decent rifles. They were made in Maine by another company for Colt. Crazy.
Oh, that's how it happened.
And then I think Melvin changed his company to New Ultralight Arms and continued making these one-offs, and they're like $4,000 a piece. And then this other
Custom gun.
this company in Maine started making the rifle. They bought the rights and they called it the Forbes Company, and started making that rifle.
That's when you and I started talking about it.
We bought that company.
Yep.
So it's the first acquisition that Barrett ever made.
Well, how'd you find out about it, first of all?
You know, I was already
Or
a
does
fan
that
of.
matter? I
was
don't know.
already a fan of the rifles. Like I had Melvin Forbes build me one that I spent like $3 or $4,000 or whatever, waited forever, and I got it, and I wasn't thrilled with it. Honestly, I've never been super happy with custom rifles. I'm sorry, and I have all our friends in the industry that are in precision rifle stuff. My opinion of custom rifles is every time you make a custom rifle, that's the first one you ever made. Do you want the first one that anybody ever made of anything, whether it be a deck on your house or a rifle? I mean,
yeah.
It's a good way to look at
every true custom, it does not go through what a Barrett MRAD or a Q-Fix has been through.
Yeah.
Like with these things, everyone is the same, and every one of them passes rigorous standards. Customs is a roll of the dice.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Every
Yeah,
time
you're
a
right.
custom
I
is put
see.
together, it's the first time that exact. And as you know in design, there are no small changes.
Oh God, Adam can speak to it better
You
than me.
get a screw, a fastener from a different supplier, and all of a sudden your gun is broken. It's like, what happened? We got a screw from a different line in the catalog than the other one. I don't even know what happened. Like there are no such things in firearms. Oh, I could soapbox on this for a minute. Why people modify guns?
Do you
but,
want to go nuts?
man, people don't realize what we go through on gun design.
No, I think about it with my history. Like my background's different than yours. When I started, I did an accessory first. Like my first product with Advanced Armament was an accessory mounting rail that I designed that went to the original Colt handguard that mounted through the holes, the vent holes in the handguard, and mounted a Picatinny rail. My second was a cyclic rate reducer for the M16.
Hey, let me close out that Forbes thing, and this might need to edit up because I want to talk about this modifying the design stuff for a second.
Go ahead.
So this Forbes rifle company formed, and I bought one of their rifles. I was like, okay, this rifle design that I like is kind of getting productionized now. I bought one of those, and it was like $1,300 as opposed to $3,000. I'm like, hey, this ain't that bad.
Yeah, 1,300. Yeah,
The opportunity to buy that company came up. They weren't doing well.
yeah, $1,300. Go figure.
It didn't work. We bought the assets of the company and the TDP, as it were. It wasn't much, honestly. Like once we got it was not a mature TDP. It was a lot of CNC programs. We basically redesigned the whole thing from there and fixed everything on it, and that's what became the Barrett Fieldcraft. And that rifle is badass. It's my favorite, like purist
the Chris
rifle.
Barretts that I know, being like fancy, educated people within hunting, the guns are very desirable. Like I just got one. Like I had contacted you a couple times. You didn't have any, and I went out and bought one in 243, and the gun's incredible.
I have shot so much stuff with that. I took it to Africa. I took one in 30-06 to Africa. I've hunted all over Texas with a 6.5 Creedmoor with an 18-inch barrel. I love that rifle.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to the Fieldcraft, and why is it not in Barrett's current catalog? This Mark 22 thing came along, and then 2020 happened. And then the whole like political cycle that started leading into the Trump administration, which bucked all the rules. Like usually when there's a Republican in the office, gun sales are down. Well, while this Republican was in office, because of all these other circumstances, gun sales were not down.
No.
During Trump.
That's true.
So all these things were happening. We have orders forever based on our core products that we are the leaders in. And a company sometimes has to make a decision that, hey, like we make a really great like this precision, lightweight bolt action hunting rifle, but like we have to pay attention to our core, and hard decisions get made, and that was a hard one. Now I'm not saying that product is not dead. Like it's still there. Like I don't know. We don't all know what the future is, but for right now, Barrett has a mission, and we are on a serious mission. We're marching towards it, and the Fieldcraft is not part of it in 2021.
Well, fair enough.
I mean, it happens. So
if there's one on Gunbroker right now,
you should snag it.
what's a good price?
I think retail on them, I think, was around $1,800? No, they were less than that. They were less than that.
Cheap.
If I could get one for $2,000 or under, I would get it, because it's a $4,000 custom rifle that's perfect.
Yeah. When I got mine, so I wanted a 6.5, but what I could get was a 243.
So I can buy right now. Sorry to cut you off, Kevin. A 6.5 Creedmoor with rings for under $2,000.
Under two?
Yeah,
I would get it.
Buy it now under $2,000.
Is it the 21-inch or the 18-inch threaded? I'd take it either way.
It's the long one.
No, I only want threaded. I just got a 243. It's 18 inches and it's threaded. And I like 243.
Yeah.
I'd rather have 6.5. 243, great cartridge, kill a lot of stuff with it. Not afraid of it. It's what I got. It's brand new. It's what I'm going to use. Mm-hmm. I think I paid $1,800 for mine, probably.
Here's a threaded one right here.
Oh, really? What caliber is it?
6.5.
Oh,
but there's no buy now. Starting bid $2,200.
$2,200?
Starting bid.
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
Scarcity is value, man. Like,
Yeah.
It's cool.
Well,
Yep.
I thought about it and was all excited, but then what I use, and for a practical sense, I use the fix all the time.
Man, I mean, you're right. It is the utility rifle. It's like if you have this. I want to talk for a second about, we got off on it earlier, but what goes into the design of these things that people, I think, don't see.
Oh my God.
And, especially in the precision rifle world. Well, no, in the AR world too. How many people, I built an AR. Yeah, I build ARs all the time. I built an AR. I built an AR last week. I built this AR.
You assembled some parts. That's cool.
Oh my gosh, man. If people only knew in like automotive design or in firearms what we go through to get a spring correct. I know there's a spring in one of our gas blocks on the Rec 7. What we went through to select the correct material, and we had to find out what happened when that rifle was fired at this really high firing schedule where it got super hot, and how many cycles the spring would last. You can think of springs like this through your rifles, things that have been real engineering nightmares, and you've had to go back through different iterations and test over and over again. And sometimes you learn that spring fails like 5 years later. Well, these things are on the field now. Now they're all failing. So we came up with a fix for that. So you do all that, and we use high-speed videos, and we use accelerometers, and we do drop tests, and cold weather, and extreme temperatures, and mud pack tests, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then you put a new firearm out there, And then some companies like new and improved trigger spring.
Yeah.
Like we got this upgrade. You buy the Brownells for $17.99. I was like, what? Like it
Yeah.
took me 2 decades to get that spring right. You did not.
Yeah,
2 weeks
people
after
rip you off. I mean, I think the Rec 7
No,
for that.
I don't think they get it right. Is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah,
a lot of
they-
modded
Oh.
stuff, like it's wrong. And you know, I don't know, man. Like I've modded guns. I've had custom everything in my life, but it's
Well,
like
I mean,
now
you know,
want
you build a
engineer.
prototype, one off, whatever. You build production, another thing. But the Rec 7, for those that don't know, that's your 308 gas gun. So
It's 308 and 5.56.
So-
it's an AR platform.
okay, so Barrett builds AR platform guns, which maybe I think a lot of people don't know, honestly.
No,
Yeah, well, you know what you're saying is like the Honey Badger. Well, I got the Honey Badger a decade ago in Call of Duty, and it became very popular before we ever sold the guns. But the Honey Badger, like there's a couple and 3 in front of you, they look like ARs. Well, 2, yeah, in front of me. But in reality, it's just the mag catch and the bolt catch and some the takedown pins and some springs and detents. That's the only thing that's common with an AR. Everything else is custom, special. And that's why the gun's so expensive, because it, like the Fieldcraft, not huge volume.
right.
There's a huge demand and we need to grow it. But, you know, I want our quality not to slip as production grows. Like, you know, Adam and I both were at SIG and we saw that, and I don't want that model. You know, I want us to continue to build a brand like Barrett, where, you know, 40 years, which you guys probably still feel like you're in your infancy. It's how I always feel. 40 years, and you guys are, you know, winning SOCOM contracts with a new weapon system.
Oh, today I'm looking at the next 5 years, and I feel like it's a new day.
Yeah, energized.
Like
Oh my
it's-
God, I feel it too.
Fun.
And for different reasons now, you know. But like I have goals and objectives and new knowledge and new skills now that I don't know. And my focus for what I want for the company long term is really coming into focus.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think with what you're saying, this might parallel. There are so many new gun companies the last 10 years. I do not fear anyone one bit. Like our path, my experience, I think dictates a certain amount of knowledge. And I know our path forward. For my strength, you know, the company's strengths, our assets, what we should do. And it's regardless of what other companies are doing, this is what we should do. You know, this is what we're good at. Like, what are we good at? What are we not good at? You know, I don't want to mass produce. You know, I want to yield of many times what other companies that mass produce stuff we get per employee. And that's the route I'm going down. Like, we are innovation, engineering, and quality. Like, that's what we are. You know, and it's probably something I respect with Barrett. You guys, definitely not the biggest gun company in the world. And you've hit home runs in some very different categories, which you could say precision long range, but I mean, the M82 or 107, very different than the Mark 22. And that's fucking awesome, and I love it. And that's what I want for my company. You know, similar things. I mean, it's different guns and different programs, but, you know, it's understanding what we can do well and executing that. You know, not trying to be what everybody else is being. And, you know, you can't afford a Barrett Rec 7. Okay. You can't afford a Honey Badger. Okay. There's plenty of other stuff out there that can, but let's build. There's always room for the best is what I think.
Yes.
And that's what I want to be.
Yeah, there's always room for the best because in a lot of ways, you know, with your product, our product, you're kind of getting what you pay for. And going back to what you were saying before about the development process, you know, maybe you have a bad spring. Maybe that spring's breaking because of something else in the gun that you need to fix. And you have to go through all the hurdles and the hassles and the financial burden of solving those problems. And it's a hard process. And that process, if done right, dictates a higher value product.
It's hard to translate that to some customers on what they're paying for.
Sure.
But that's what you're paying for. And then I think they're also...
Well, you either pay on the front end and the back end, meaning
right.
you pay for a Barrett Mark 22 or you pay for a Honey Badger, or you buy the cheap alternative and you buy a better one or hours later.
You
and
know,
that's paying the front end or the back end.
And one of the things, too, the value that's hard to define on a spec sheet is people are buying your tribe. They're buying into your tribe. Like we talked about with Elon Musk the other day. You're not just buying a Tesla. you're kind of buying into
That's
that
right.
philosophy and the design, and that's what's happening with Q, and what's
Oh,
happened with
thank you.
Barrett's loyal customers too.
I
you
think
know?
so.
So it's there's a pride of ownership that's not so tangible to everyone until you're in it. And
Well, I want with what you said, as a friend of yours and someone who respects your father, to understand. Barrett Firearms was one thing from my perspective, who is someone in the industry, also a fan of firearms and a consumer of your goods. The company was one thing with your dad, and it still has that DNA, but to transcend into you being in charge of the company and seeing the Mark 22 and new products and a new breath into the company, it's different, and that's exciting for me, and it makes me more loyal to the company. So, like, I see that, and that's my perspective. Like, I like it. Like the Barrett, the 107, it's fucking awesome. I love it. I love shooting cars or concrete blocks with it. The Mark 22, totally different thing, and would that have happened without you? Like, you say whatever you want. I know the answer is no, it wouldn't have. So, I like that. One thing, I want to get into some of the stuff that I came up with.
yeah,
So, we talked about what's going on, and we got more to come with Barrett, and that's exciting. Was it the Boers system?
oh yeah,
Yeah. So what was this
I
for people
forgot
that don't
about
know?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't.
The Barrett optical, man, we love our acronyms, right? We do.
Yeah.
The Barrett optical ranging system, not a great. That one didn't work so well because people thought it ranged, like it determined range. It did not.
So what is it?
The Boers was
a computer that goes on your Leupold scope.
It is a computer that mounted via rings and adapted to the elevation knob on not only Leupold, but I think we adapted to some Night Forces and some Schmitz also.
All right. So Thomas, we'll put it up on the screen now.
Yeah, it was a interesting thing. So what's been happening now? Fire control is the new deal. Like it's
Wait, what was this? What was it? It adapted to it. What did it do? Explain it.
It is a computer that developed a long range shooting solution for whatever range you were shooting at. It gave you the solution. It gave you the come up, if you will. But it was
so the dial.
But it didn't just tell you dial up to MOA. It was connected to the knob. So it was reading the position of the elevation knob. So as I turned this knob, the computer knew the temperature. It knew the inclination I was at.
Yeah.
It knew barometric pressure, and it knew the ballistic data of the cartridge if I input it correctly.
Yeah.
If I've told it like we're in these
It gives
conditions.
the computer the right information.
So if I ranged a target with a separate rangefinder, said we have a target 1,400 meters, I don't have to know the math anymore. I just have to turn this knob until the number
says 1400.
14. Hit. All right, we have one at 800. Okay, 800.
Okay, well,
pull.
it's awesome. Why didn't it succeed?
It's pioneers get the arrows, settlers get the land, they say. And this was a kind of far out there thing that I think people didn't understand the product. It was hard. This is
Well, is it a failure of the product or a failure of the marketing of the Barrett Firearms Company?
maybe both.
Yeah.
It's
I think about it personally with my own stuff every day.
sometimes the market is not ready to hear a thing. Okay.
Stoner 63.
So Apple did not invent the music player like the iPod. It wasn't first. Some other companies did it first and never got the market. Apple got it later, but the other people were educated the market on what it was.
It's an interesting product. I mean, I knew a couple of guys that had it that loved it back in the day, and I thought of it when you were
If you
coming.
understand how to use it, it's amazing. It's
How do you grow and maintain the culture of the company? Like, how does Barrett stay a small Tennessee firearms company with roots from Ronnie's rental garage?
I think it is done. You and I have talked. We've talked so much off mic these last couple of days. I think it's done by investing in the people, and it's so what's happening at Barrett right now is I think we're keeping our heart and our DNA, but we're professionalizing the things that keep you in business and make everybody happy.
It seems mature. Like, that statement seems mature because, you or I can think however we want, but we're so eccentric and disconnected from, the magnitude of reality that we don't have to worry about the daily struggle. So staying connected and having that DNA and a culture of investing in the people.
Investing in the people. And I see you doing it too. And I haven't like hung around the physical walls of your company over here, but I see too that that your guys like have enough freedom to express themselves and to be passionate about what they're doing. It's not all just the Kevin show.
Yeah.
And Barrett is not all just the Ronnie and Chris show anymore. Like
That's
there
wonderful.
are people that have been there for 30 years and there's people that have been there for a year, and we're investing in those people in their professional development and giving them authority and freedom to do things.
I mean,
and
me,
I think that's how you keep culture.
I agree. And I think even up to, if Adam didn't challenge me on a regular basis, I would not have confidence in him. And I think it's true. It doesn't have to be Adam. It's, because I stick, my dick in every part of the company. So whether it's shipping and receiving quality.
Not literally.
Wow.
You're not HR.
Except the HR
Whatever.
department, yeah.
But, whether it's assembly, shipping, receiving, quality control, like whatever it is, I have input. But, I'm the asshole that just owns the company, doesn't do all the work. So I can say stuff and challenge things, but you got to have the stones to set me straight if I'm wrong or give me the reality of what's going on. I'm not always right. Like I take a snapshot of something I'm not really involved in regularly. But I have my opinions on how I want the company represented. And, I look to people who put their heart in it, but who will challenge me. And, and that's what I like.
We have also not only just like helping people with their own personal development on a professional side, like making them awesome. We have also, we have just kept and cultivated a real sense of passion around what we're doing and shooting. And I'll tell you like how it manifests itself. Like our COO, Brian James, he has a farm not far from Barrett with a Fieldcraft rifle course set up on it that he maintains. Like you're hiking through the woods, and like
That's so cool.
He takes the entire commercial and professional end user sales team out there, and they compete against each other. And they like the whole team. Like so, our the U.S. commercial guys. I think there's 7 of them that cover the country. Every one of them can sling a rifle like nobody's business. They train together.
Awesome.
They're learning to train people to shoot. And so, my guys are not salespeople.
Yeah,
like they're users that can tell you about the product.
It's cool. Like for me, we were talking about earlier on a break. We're going to take everybody out and do a showcase of our products. Where I was exposed, because we can get jaded about the products because we're like hyper focused on it, and we're competitive. We want to beat everyone, and we get hung up on it. And I was on a hunt this weekend, and our products compared to some competitors' products and how we just demolish them. And I'm like, like I know these things, but it was good to see it. I'm going to take our entire company out and reproduce what I was exposed to again this weekend because it made an impact on me. And it's like, imagine what it can do for them. But yeah, I mean, these minor things, but I mean, I think you said it best. It's like investing in the people, the personnel.
Yeah.
And there'll always be people that aren't good fits, and you got to weed through that 10% of stuff constantly. But the rest of it, investing in the people is important.
Yeah.
So you got a new car.
Yeah.
What you got?
The new Lamborghini Huracan Evo.
You had to one-up me.
Well, I mean, I had the old one too. We all had the old one once.
I'm over here in my Ford freaking Focus.
But it's like an ST or something, so you're good.
Yeah, it's totally cool.
So the Evo, how is it?
It's amazing. It's got like 30 more horsepower than the
You
old one.
You can't tell 30 more horsepower in a car that powerful.
It was already too fast. Yeah, but this
Agreed.
one, I've got a track event on March 23rd. I'm going to track this one, and
they make a helmet that'll fit your head for the track.
No.
What's faster, that or your Tesla?
My Tesla smokes it by like a full second.
0 to 60. Yeah, the Tesla's probably going to get it.
Yeah, only because they limit the top speed. Yeah, the Tesla, I can haul 7 of you motherfuckers and we can outrun Chris.
But I look so cool, man.
You do. You look awesome.
Until you have to get out of it. And then, like, you roll out.
Then you look like Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie when he's all
Falls out of the car.
If you drive it somewhere cool, I have to have the valet meet me around the corner. I'm not going to get out in front of all these people. Like, you have to meet me over here and I'll roll out onto the street.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you said a track day?
Yeah, on March 23rd. I went to Porsche driving school this year, and it was amazing during COVID. And like I really got hooked on just like running on a track at high speed. You know, we don't get to do dangerous stuff all the time anymore.
We don't?
And it feels. I mean, you and I both hang out of helicopters and shoot things. Did you have any kind of harness on? Because I didn't. It was just like a lap belt.
Yep.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I know I'm chunky, but I could probably slide out of this.
I thought about it, and I was like, I even verbalized it to the guy I was with. I was like, seems sketchy, but I was like, it's almost a pirate death. I'm okay with it. Let's go.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know, if I die, like, I don't know, on the toilet or something, it's one thing. But if I die, like, shooting shit out of a helicopter,
Think of what that's going to do for sales.
I know the book would sell a ton. I mean, it'd be good. Yeah, so I don't know.
That is the other like most fun, dangerous thing I've done in the last few years.
Are you into motorcycles?
Man, I love them, and I went and got I did the test for my license and did a training class, and I just can't talk myself into buying one. I keep looking at them. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sketchy.
I don't want to eat Jell-O in a wheelchair for the rest of my life.
No.
Like I just.
No, you know what caused me to really get out of it was moving to New Hampshire. It's cold here for so long.
Yeah.
Then all the batteries die in my motorcycles, and I don't.
Yep.
I'm too lazy to put them on tenders, and I just like got over it. So I ride a scooter, 150cc scooter most of the time.
It's way cooler.
It's I have. Well, I don't know. As I've gotten older too, and you know, I've got like my dream woman. I don't like I ride a scooter. What do I care? I ride a scooter and flip flops, and I ain't trying to impress anyone. And who makes fun of you? Because girls don't know if it's a motorcycle or a scooter. It's just dudes. Like, what do I care what you think? Like, shut the fuck up.
So you think girls are looking at you on that and going, "Oh, look at that guy on a motorcycle"?
I think
That's
girls,
sweet ninja.
I think girls, when it comes to me, girls never look at me and say anything. It's just, it makes no difference. Girls don't care. Like, I don't know, when's the last time you've been in a gas station without the Lamborghini and a girl comes up to you and like, hey, boy. Like,
no, that doesn't happen.
Never.
That's not a
never. Thing. What do I care? I don't care, but dudes talk shit. Like, women, I don't. It's just like being in this industry. I say it all the time. Like, should have been in a band. Like, I got tons, and you probably do too, but of like male groupies. Like, cool.
You don't have to be in a band. You just have to get that hat and carry a guitar case.
Oh, that's a good point.
Done.
Zach Brown.
You look like a rock star. I got to dress better though. You're snazzy with the dressing.
Man, I've had people in a line to take selfies in Nashville before, and this one guy was like, "Man, I saw you in Florida 2 weeks ago." I was like, "Dude, thanks, man. Thank you so much."
You look like Zach Brown.
Dude, you're why we do it. You're why we do it. I mean, it's all about you guys.
That's awesome.
I don't even know who he thought I was. I never even asked. I just lined up. I was like, man.
I thought you were Zach Brown. I picked you up at the airport.
Yeah.
All right. Well, man.
Hey, dude.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
And, you know, I don't care if I have to bribe you with a podcast and tell you to come build a gun, get to hang out with you and discuss this stuff. You know, it's important because, like, all these noobs, they need to know what's going on. And it's so fun for me to, like, relive some of this. So, I don't know. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you asking me. You know, we did this kind of last minute.
Yeah.
And that's how I operate.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Papa's a Rolling Stone.
I mean, don't ask me to go 6 months from now, but you're like, hey, on Tuesday, would you?
I know. I asked you 6 months ahead of time. Let's go to Africa on a hunting trip. Oh, no. I've got an appointment. Worth every penny.